Welcome to r/entitled people, where a wild Karen tricks her husband into cheating with her sister and really ends up regretting it. My wife tricked me into cheating with her sister, now she regrets it. My wife, who's 34 female, and I, 36 male, have been married for 8 years, and for the longest time, I thought our foundation was unbreakable. Yeah, until you nailed her sister. We've always valued being completely open and honest with each other. Her sister, Maddy, who's 27, is what most people would call a firecracker. She's beautiful, outgoing, and has spent years making these playful, borderline flirtatious remarks towards me whenever the family gets together. My wife always treated it like a running joke, and I followed her lead, never once thinking about actually crossing that line. Things took a strange turn about 4 months ago. My wife began asking me these questions about whether I found Maddy more attractive than her, or if I'd ever imagined being with her. I did my best to reassure her that she was the only person I wanted, but she kept pushing. Then, out of nowhere, she said that she was actually fine with me hooking up with her sister. She claimed that Maddy had a huge crush on me and that she felt secure enough in our marriage to let me have that one-time experience. It was so bizarre, unlike her, and I asked if she was trying to push for an open marriage. She seemed almost insulted by the idea and argued that this was different because she trusted Maddy and she knew that there would be no emotional attachment. It became a constant topic of conversation until it felt like she was genuinely let down that I hadn't followed through. She eventually talked me into believing that by saying no, I was actually denying us a chance to prove how much we truly trusted one another. Everything finally came to a head last month during a weekend getaway at a lake house. Throughout the entire drive, my wife kept insisting that I should just let loose and move past my reservations regarding Maddy. She even joked that maybe we needed to get my testosterone checked because it seemed like I was afraid to be a man. That evening, following several drinks, my wife announced she was heading to bed early but explicitly encouraged Maddy to stay behind and keep me company. To make a long story short, Maddy and I ended up together on the sofa. I mistakenly believed that because I had her permission, I was doing nothing wrong. But the second it ended, the entire situation shifted. When I walked into our room, I found her wide awake, just staring at the ceiling. I anticipated the secure partner that she had promised to be, but she looked absolutely devastated. By the following morning, the cool wife persona had vanished entirely. She broke down in tears, labeling me as a traitor and claiming she was shocked that I had actually followed through with it. It became clear that this entire ordeal was nothing more than a twisted, massive test. She never truly wanted me to go through with it. She wanted me to prove my loyalty by rejecting her sister despite being handed a hall pass. Now she's portraying me as a cheater to her entire family, conveniently omitting the fact that she spent months pressuring me to do it. Maddy is stuck in the crossfire, and my marriage is in a total tailspin because I walked straight into a trap that I never even saw coming. This is one of the most stressful things I've read on here in a long time. Your wife is an absolute idiot for thinking that testing her husband by dangling her own sister in front of him was a good idea, but you are just as foolish for actually falling for it. I don't care how many times she gave you a hall pass or told you she was secure enough to handle it. It's a sibling. That's literally a nuclear bomb in the middle of your family tree. The fact that you thought there was any version of this where everyone walks away happy and grabs brunch the next morning is mind-blowing. Stories like this are a great reminder of how fortunate I am to have a boring life. I'll take my quiet evenings and zero family drama over this kind of self-inflicted crap any day of the week. You both played a stupid game, and now you're stuck with the prize. Good luck, because you're going to need it. Update 1 month later. It's been a few weeks since the fallout, and our marriage is little more than a ghost of its former self. We're sharing the same house, but the silence between us is absolutely deafening. No matter how many times I describe how her months of badgering and explicit permission led to this, she only responds with more disgust. Her favorite narrative now is that I should have known it was a character test. In her mind, a devoted husband would have seen through the psychological games and rejected her sister regardless. Even my friends have weighed in, calling me an idiot, and claiming that any man with half a brain knows a sibling hall pass is a trap. It only makes me feel like I'm losing my mind. To make the situation worse, Maddy has completely gone off the rails. She texts me constantly, insisting that what happened was real and that she misses me. She's actively pushing for me to leave my wife so we can be together, claiming that she's the only one who truly appreciates me. I've shown every message to my wife to maintain transparency, but she still finds a way to shift the blame onto me. She argues that Maddy is only acting like this because I led her on and provided hope. I'm starting to feel completely hopeless, as if I was set up to fail by the one person I trusted the most. Now I'm being punished for a mistake that she practically pressured me to make. I don't know where we go from here, but the path back to our old life seems gone forever. Your wife is being completely mental if she thinks she can spend months pressuring you into a situation and then cry foul when you actually listen to her. You didn't do anything wrong here. If someone gives you explicit, repeated permission to do something, they don't get to retroactively decide it was a test once the act is done. That's just manipulative and toxic behavior. Honestly, I want to know more about Maddy. She sounds perfect for you compared to the head games your wife is playing. Maddy is being direct about what she wants, and she isn't trying to trap you in some weird loyalty loop. If your wife already thinks you're a traitor and is telling the whole family you're a cheater anyway, why are you staying? You might as well leave and be with the sister who actually seems to want you. If the marriage is already dead and your wife won't take any responsibility for her own test, why not just go where you're wanted? OP. Dude, you're completely missing the point. I love my wife, not Maddy. Sure, Maddy might be younger, objectively prettier, and clearly more into me than my wife is right now, but I am not in love with her. She isn't the person I've built an 8-year marriage with. She isn't the one I've shared my home, my dreams, and my struggles with. Just because things are a mess right now doesn't mean I just throw away a decade of history for a thrill. You sound incredibly immature if you think you can just drop the spouse you're already deeply in love with just to be with someone else. I'm trying to save my marriage, not find an exit strategy with her sister. Update 3 months later. The paperwork was finalized last week, and my wife has officially filed for divorce. Because the house was an inheritance on her side, the legalities were not in my favor. I've spent the last several nights in a budget hotel. To be honest, I'm really struggling. I've been relying far too heavily on alcohol just to blunt the sharp edges of everything that I've thrown away. It's reached a breaking point where my boss had to pull me aside yesterday to warn me that I'm one step away from being unemployed if I don't figure things out. My daily existence has turned into such a disaster that, in a moment of pure desperation, I actually tried reaching out to Maddy. I was just looking for some kind of connection, but she didn't respond for a few days. A mutual friend mentioned that she's moved on to some new guy she's obsessed with. When she finally did send a text, it was incredibly cold, telling me that she's happy now and that my messages are coming across as creepy. It just sucks. A few months ago, she was begging me to leave my wife, but now that my world has actually collapsed, she wants no part of the wreckage. I'm at a loss for where to go from here. I'm just sitting in a dark room with a bottle and the weight of my own choices, and I don't see a path toward anything better right now. You know, Karen, OP's life went downhill fast. He betrayed his own gut and fell for his wife's mind games. But at the same time, if he really didn't want to hook up with Maddy, he wouldn't have done it. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And now, Maddy doesn't even want to have anything to do with him. If your spouse is pressuring you to cheat with someone and you truly don't want to do it, the only correct response is, "That's not funny. I would never do it, and I don't want to hear about it again." My husband deeply betrayed my trust, and I'm at a loss. We're both 28. My husband is a partially in denial alcoholic. While he has acknowledged that alcohol is a problem and that it has affected our marriage, I don't fully believe he truly sees it as alcoholism because he's functional, and drinking was very normalized in his family growing up. Back in October, when things got really bad, he agreed to sobriety after I gave him an ultimatum. It was either drinking or our marriage. A couple of nights ago, he went out with his nephew, who's around our age and currently on leave from the army. They ended up drinking, and from what I can tell, they drove home while heavily intoxicated. I only realized how bad things were when I went to wake him up from the couch after he passed out. He was clearly not okay, and the situation escalated to the point where I had to repeatedly tell him to stop what he was doing. He ended up making a mess in the bathroom and damaging part of the door during the chaos. For context, he has a history of being physically reactive while drunk, but it has never been directed at me personally. Still, it's unsettling. On top of that, I found out that he's had drinks at other times during what he claimed was his sobriety period. He just didn't always get to the point of being visibly drunk. That realization alone has completely shaken my trust in him. At this point, we are clearly on the rocks. I've put divorce back on the table as a possibility, even though I don't want that outcome. I've also reached out to our therapist to let him know what happened so we can address it properly during our next session on the 28th. The hardest part for me is this. I love my husband. Despite everything, I don't want to divorce him. But at the same time, I feel like I'm supposed to. Like I'd be making a mistake if I didn't. I feel stuck between what my heart wants and what reality is showing me. I've been his main support system. Both of his parents are gone and his siblings aren't reliable, so I've always tried to be his rock. All I want is for him to get better. He says he wants help and he knows what he did is wrong. I can see that he's ashamed. He's been cycling between panic at the idea of losing me and shutting down completely, almost like he's angry with himself and pushing me away at the same time. He also struggles with fully accepting the label of being an alcoholic. Even though he said out loud that his behavior isn't normal and that it's a problem, I don't think he's reached the point of truly accepting that this is something long-term that requires ongoing effort. It feels like he still believes he can fix it through willpower alone. I just don't know what to do. I know people will tell me to just leave, but I don't want to just walk away from someone I love when he's clearly not okay. Even if this doesn't work out, I don't want to feel like I abandoned him at his lowest point. At the same time, I know a lot of what's happening is situational. He's lost his job, he's lost both of his parents, and we've had some communication struggles in our relationship on top of everything else. Though none of that changes what's happening right now. So I guess my question is, what can I realistically do to help this situation? How can I support him in getting the help he needs without losing myself in the process? Edit to add, I'm starting to realize that my previous ultimatums may not have had real consequences behind it, and that I may have unintentionally enabled his behavior by staying without enforcing boundaries. Addiction runs in his family, and I've seen firsthand how damaging it can be, but I didn't fully recognize that I was now living inside that same kind of situation. He does try at times, but I don't think he fully understands that recovery isn't temporary. It's something that requires long-term commitment. You already gave him a choice months ago, your marriage or drinking. And even if he says the right things now, his actions are still choosing alcohol. That doesn't make him a bad person, but it does mean he's not ready to change yet. The hardest truth here is that love alone isn't enough to fix addiction. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and stop cushioning the consequences. Addiction is one of those things where effort matters more than intention. He might genuinely feel regret, shame, and even fear of losing you. But unless that turns into consistent action, real change won't happen. Recovery isn't a straight line either. There will be setbacks. The real question is whether he's actually committing to the process or just hoping it resolves on its own. What stands out is how much responsibility you're carrying for his recovery. You're trying to be his support system, his stability, and the one who helps him get better. That's not something one person can or should hold on their own. You can support him, yes, but you can't do the work for him. At some point, protecting your own well-being has to matter just as much as helping him. Update 1 month later. My husband and I have been together for 7 years, married for 2. Just prior to our marriage, my husband began developing an alcohol dependency that has gradually worsened over time, and everything really came to a breaking point this past month. About a month ago, he came home clearly intoxicated, which immediately upset me given his history and his previous commitment to sobriety since October. I later found out that commitment hadn't been real. I know I probably should have waited until the next day to talk about it, but in the moment, I was overwhelmed with anger. It wasn't just about the drinking, but the deception and the fact that he had driven home in that state. Things escalated quickly. While I was trying to get him to bed, the situation became chaotic and intense. He started moving toward me in a way that felt aggressive. At that point, I felt like I had no choice but to call for emergency help. When he realized what I was doing, he reacted out of fear and anger, damaging part of the house in the process. He was later arrested and charged, and since then, I've been staying with my parents. I attended his initial hearing this past Monday. Today, I needed to go back to the house to grab a few things, so I texted him to let him know ahead of time. Normally, he leaves when I need to come over, but after waiting hours for a response, I went anyway. When I walked in, the condition of the house shocked me. It was completely unkempt. There was a strong smell in the air, and it was clear that things hadn't improved at all. He has a history of overindulging in substances, and it appears that pattern is continuing. On top of that, he's been unemployed since February after leaving what he described as a toxic work environment, but he hasn't been actively looking for a new job. From what I can tell, he's been spending his time playing video games, going out with friends, or taking rides on his motorcycle. This has been a major point of conflict between us. At one point, when I asked him to find any kind of job so I wouldn't be the only one supporting us financially, he accused me of being controlling and unfair. That conversation alone was a turning point for me. The hardest truth I'm facing right now is that I want him to get better. I want him to be a healthy, stable, and present person again. Seeing the lack of real effort to change has slowly drained what was left of my romantic feelings for him. What I feel now is more like grief than love. We have a couples therapy scheduled for Friday, and I'm planning to tell him during that session that I want divorce. I've decided that this will be our last session together. Up until very recently, I still thought there was a chance we could fix things, but I don't believe so anymore. The reason I want to tell him in therapy is because it feels like the safest place to have that conversation. He has a tendency to become defensive or hostile even during sessions, and I don't know how he'll react when I say this. At least in that setting, there's a professional present who can help keep things grounded if emotions escalate. Outside of that, I've been trying to think through the logistics of leaving safely. My parents are aware of everything and they're ready to help me retrieve my belongings. I've already taken important documents and valuables when I first left because I was worried about what might happen in moments of anger. I won't be going back alone. I've also started to recognize something about myself in all of this. I have a habit of trying to explain or soften his behavior even when I know it's wrong. I've been working on that in individual therapy, but it's difficult to break that pattern. I've spent so much time trying to understand him that I haven't always protected myself the way that I should have. There's also a part of me that feels guilty. He doesn't have a strong support system outside of me. His parents are gone and he's estranged from most of his family. But I'm realizing that I can't be the person who saves him from himself. That's not something anyone can do. I'm not trying to abandon him. I'm trying to accept that I can't fix this. So now I'm left with one question. How do I tell him in therapy session that I want a divorce? I know this is hard to hear, but you're still carrying a lot of responsibility for him that isn't actually yours. You keep explaining his behavior in a way that softens it, but at the end of the day, he's still making the same choices. Bad things happening to someone doesn't make them drive drunk or take it out on their environment. You can care about him and still step away. Those two things can exist at the same time. The biggest thing here is that you're starting to see the pattern, and that's huge. You even said it yourself. You'd recognize this as a problem if it were happening to someone else. That's usually the turning point. You can't fix this for him, and staying won't change him if he's not ready to change. You're not abandoning him, you're just finally choosing yourself, which you should have been doing all along. You don't need a perfect script for this. Just keep it simple and clear so it doesn't turn into a debate. Something like, I care about you, but I can't continue in this marriage. I've decided to move forward with a divorce. Say it once and don't over-explain. Then let the therapist manage whatever reaction comes next. The goal isn't to convince him or to soften it. It's to communicate your decision and stick to it. Update 6 days later. I wanted to come back and update. My husband did show up to our therapy session, and I was able to tell him, with our therapist there, that I will be filing for divorce. I went in as prepared as I could be. I even brought a list of our shared assets and how I thought they could be divided so that if possible, we could walk away from this as peacefully as the situation allows. It was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had. He was obviously devastated, and I was too. There's no version of this where it doesn't hurt. He did say that he saw it coming, which in a strange way made things feel more grounded. Like, even he knew where this was heading, even if neither of us wanted to fully say it out loud beforehand. All things considered, it went as well as something like this possibly could. I don't believe he'll be violent, but I'm still taking precautions. I've learned not to ignore that kind of risk, even if it feels unlikely. Since then, things have only reinforced the decision. I was notified on Wednesday that he was arrested again for fleeing an officer and violating his bail conditions. From what I understand, this likely ties back to the sobriety requirements that were put in place after the first incident. It made something very clear to me that I think I've been slowly coming to terms with. While he may feel regret over the fact, he's not in a place where he's ready to face the problem or truly get help. And that's something I can't fix for him. So now I'm trying to shift my focus. I'm grieving what this relationship was, what it could have been, and who he used to be before all of this. At the same time, I'm trying to move forward and accept that choosing my safety and well-being is not something I need to feel ashamed of. I've had a lot of support, both here and from my family and friends, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. It's helped me sit with all of the emotions that come with a decision like this. Because even when you know it's the right choice, it doesn't make it easy. There's still a part of me that feels like I abandoned him. He doesn't have a strong support system. His parents are gone and he's estranged. That weighs on me more than I expected. I still love him, and it hurts to know that he may be facing all of this without someone in his corner the way he once had. I'm also starting to understand something that I didn't before. There's nothing more that I can do for him at this point. No amount of love, support, or staying would change what he's not ready to face himself. And staying would only continue the cycle that's already caused so much damage. This situation has been one of the hardest things I've ever gone through. It's messy, painful, and complicated in ways that I never imagined I'd be dealing with in my life. Still, I believe I'll be okay. Maybe not today and maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. For now, I just want to keep moving forward toward a future where I can feel safe, healthy, and at peace again. Thank you for all the kind words, the firm advice, and even the tough comments. I needed all of it more than I realized. If anything changes, I'll update again. For now, I'm focusing on taking things one step at a time. This is one of those situations where doing the right thing doesn't feel good, even when you know it's necessary. You can tell how much you still care about him, and that's what makes this so hard. But you can't build a life on who someone could be. You have to look at what they're actually doing right now. And right now, he's not in a place to be a safe or a stable partner. I get why you feel guilty, but you did not abandon him. You stayed, supported him, gave him chances, and tried to help him get better. At some point, staying stops being support and starts keeping the cycle going. Walking away doesn't mean you don't care about him, it just means you finally recognized where your responsibility ends. You know, Karen, I can fix him really turned into I need to fix my exit plan real quick. Right, because at some point it stops being love and starts being damage control. He kept saying that he had changed, but his actions were on a completely different script. Yeah, and she finally stopped believing his promises and started reading the pattern. Am I the jerk? My sister let someone else take over her wedding shower, but I'm her maid of honor. My sister is getting married and asked me to be her matron of honor, which I was genuinely excited about. I love my little sister, and she was my matron of honor when I got married a few years ago, so it really felt meaningful to return the role. We talk regularly, though our lifestyles are a bit different now. I have a young child at home, while she's younger, more social, and still in that stage of going out often and staying out late. She's planning a big wedding with a lot of moving parts, so as matron of honor, I'm expected to take the lead on organizing both the bridal shower and the bachelorette party. Since the shower comes first, I asked her what kind of vibe she wanted. She said elegant, which gave me a clear direction. I told her I'd coordinate with the bridesmaids, come up with options, and then bring everything back to her for approval. She didn't have any specific ideas yet, but she did mention she wanted something that could accommodate a larger group. I created a group chat with the bridesmaids to start planning. There are 3 others. 2 are my sister's childhood friends, who I already knew to be easygoing and collaborative, and 1 I didn't know at all. I'll call her Shady. She's actually part of my sister's fiance's main friend group and was added to the bridal party for balance, though my sister has been getting to know her more. We scheduled an in-person brainstorming session. Everyone arrived on time except for Shady. I tried calling and texting, but I got no response. After 30 minutes, we decided to go ahead without her. The rest of us started discussing ideas, themes, games, and potential venues. I mentioned that I had some elegant venue ideas in mind, though they might be on the pricier side. Since I'm a bit older and more financially stable, I offered to cover the cost of the venue or location myself, while the others could focus on decor, games, or smaller details. They were relieved and happy with that arrangement. About 40 minutes in, Shady finally showed up and apologized for being late. We filled her in on everything that we had discussed, but she didn't contribute much. She mostly listened. The meeting itself went well. We got to know each other a bit, and Shady came across as friendly and outgoing. We ended things with a clear plan, that I would tour venues and update the group chat, and the others would continue contributing ideas for decor, themes, and activities. Over the next week, I took a few days off work and I visited several venues. I took photos and shared everything in the group chat. The other bridesmaids responded right away, asking questions, giving feedback, and sharing ideas of their own. There was a good flow of collaboration, but Shady didn't respond at all. That weekend, I went to my sister's place to show her everything in person. While I was there, she casually mentioned that Shady and her boyfriend had stopped by earlier that day to hang out with her and her fiancé. Then she told me something that caught me off guard. Apparently, Shady had already shown her all of the venue photos and ideas from our group chat, and then presented an entirely different option. A large mansion owned by a friend, complete with layout plans, suggesting they host the shower there instead with catering. My sister said she really liked that idea. I told her that if that's what she wanted, I supported it. At the end of the day, I want her to have the shower that she wants. But I can't lie. It felt like the rug had been pulled out from under me. I had done the planning, the research, the tours, shared everything openly in the group chat, and Shady said nothing there, only to go directly to my sister behind the scenes with a completely different plan that she never even mentioned to the rest of us. I'm trying to figure out if I'm overreacting or if this is really as off as it feels. Do I confront her? Or do I just keep quiet to avoid creating drama during my sister's wedding? Edit. The mansion option would likely be free since it belongs to Shady's friend. Edit 2. I have no intention of stepping down as matron of honor or causing issues for my sister. I may be sensitive, but I feel like there were multiple chances for Shady to communicate openly in the group chat. This would bother me too. Not because her idea was better, but because of how she handled it. You had a group chat, a planning meeting, and multiple chances for her to speak up, and she chose not to use any of them. Then suddenly she presents a fully formed plan directly to the bride like the rest of you weren't even part of the process. Even if her intentions weren't malicious, that's not how you collaborate on something like this. I can see the other perspective a little bit in that she might have needed to confirm with her friend before offering the house, but that still doesn't explain why she stayed completely silent in the group chat. A simple, "Hey, I might have access to a venue, let me check," would have changed everything. The lack of communication is what makes it feel off, not just the idea itself. The tricky part here is that your sister likes the idea, which kind of puts you in a position where pushing back could look like you're making it about yourself. At the same time, your feelings are valid. You put in effort and you were leading this the way that you were asked to. If you say anything, it probably has to be calm and focused on clarity, not confrontation. Otherwise, it could turn into bigger wedding drama than it's worth. Update 11 days later. Remember when I said I didn't want to cause drama for my sister? Well, I failed. After my sister told me she wanted to go with Shady's mansion shower plan, I decided to handle it like an adult and reach out to Shady directly. I called her first, but she didn't answer. So I sent a polite message explaining that I'd spoken to my sister and that I was just confused about how the group chat planning had suddenly turned into a fully formed alternate event. I kept it very calm, very neutral. I genuinely just wanted clarity. She replied by text instead of calling. She said she doesn't have a sister of her own and that she really wanted to do this for my sister. Okay. Still, she didn't explain why none of this was brought up in the group chat. Then she added that she already had a full menu planned and my sister had approved it. Shady would be covering the cost and the rest of us bridesmaids just needed to show up and enjoy. Oh, and she planned to use one of the games that we had discussed earlier. Not going to lie, that stung. So now she's hosting the shower, fully planned, fully executed, and we're just guests, featuring one recycled idea from the original group chat. I know she's not trying to take advantage financially since she's covering everything, but it still felt like I'd been cut out of something I'd been asked to lead. I probably shouldn't have said it, but I told her that this was something I had really wanted to do for my only sister, and that I was disappointed I didn't even get to be a part of it. After that, I called my sister to explain what happened. My sister didn't push back at all. She said this is what she wants, and that I can just focus on planning the bachelorette party instead. And if that's truly what she wants, then fine, I'll respect it. But I can't ignore how it made me feel. Disappointed, replaced, and honestly, a little pushed aside. I sent a neutral message in the group chat letting everyone know that Shady would be taking over the shower planning and that it would be held at her friend's house. My phone rang almost immediately. One of the other bridesmaids, I'll call her Sweetie, called me completely shocked because she knew how much this meant to me. I explained everything, and she got upset on my behalf. She asked if I wanted her to call Shady and get answers. And this is where hindsight really hits. I said yes. Sweetie called Shady. Shady picked up. From what I understand, the conversation didn't go well. They argued. Then Shady called my sister, and then my sister called me. My sister was upset that there was now conflict. I tried to calm her down, but I ended up getting emotional too, and I raised my voice. I did apologize after, but in that moment, I realized something I hadn't fully accepted before. My sister just wanted me to quietly go along with this and not create any waves. And instead, I'd created a tidal wave. I kept asking myself how we even got here. Fast forward to this past weekend. There was another event where all the bridesmaids were present along with family, and I met my sister's future in-laws for the first time. Shady was there too. She didn't speak to me at all, not once. Instead, she stayed close to my sister's fiancé and his mother. When I met the future mother-in-law, with Shady standing right there, I immediately got the feeling that she wasn't fond of me. She was polite but distant, almost curt. I couldn't help but wonder what version of this situation had been shared on that side. I stayed close to my sister during the event. She seemed happy, which is what matters, and Sweetie stayed near us too. But there's now a very clear divide between me and Shady, and the whole situation just feels uncomfortable. I feel terrible. I never wanted to make my sister's wedding stressful or complicated. I just wanted to do something meaningful for her. And now, somehow, it all feels political. So now I'm left questioning myself. Did I mishandle this? Was this one of those situations where I should have just stayed quiet? Or was I reasonably hurt and things simply spiraled beyond what I intended? Because right now, it feels like I somehow ended up being the villain in a story I never even meant to create. Edit. I still have no intention of stepping down as matron of honor and want to support my sister through the wedding, though I'm choosing to stay polite and avoid further conflict moving forward. I understand my sister may be overwhelmed with wedding planning, and I'm trying to give her grace despite feeling dismissed. You didn't create this situation, you just reacted to it. There's a difference. The real issue started when someone chose to go around the group and make decisions behind the scenes. Everything after that was just fallout. Could things have been handled more quietly? Maybe. But it's not realistic to expect someone to feel completely fine just being pushed out of something that they were asked to lead. Your reaction didn't create the problem, it just made it visible. What stands out here is that your sister isn't really acknowledging your side at all. She's focused on keeping things smooth, which is understandable during wedding planning, but that usually ends up meaning the person who speaks up gets labeled as the problem. It's easier for her to ask you to just go along with it than to address the person who caused the tension in the first place. That doesn't make your feelings any less valid. This feels like one of those situations where stepping back emotionally might help, even if you stay involved. You can still be there for your sister without trying to control how things unfold, especially if there are dynamics behind the scenes you don't fully see yet. You weren't wrong for feeling hurt, but at this point, protecting your peace might matter more than trying to make everything fair. Update 3 months later. So, the hijacked shower finally happened this past weekend, and I have to be honest, it was beautiful, elegant, polished, and if I'm being completely fair, better than anything that I would have put together. I received an invitation like any other guest. No mention of helping, no role, no involvement, just show up. A few days before the event, I even texted Shady asking if there was anything I could bring or help with. Her response, just bring yourself. So that's exactly what I did. I had family coming in from out of town, so some of my aunts and cousins met at my house and we all drove over together. When we arrived, the place was something else. A massive gated home, the kind you see in movies, fountain out front, sweeping steps, pillars, etc. I remember thinking immediately, okay, this is not your average bridal shower. Shady greeted us at the door with air kisses and charm, thanking us for coming and ushering everyone inside like she was hosting a formal event. And to her credit, everything was stunning. The food was plated like artwork. The decor was coordinated down to the smallest detail. The whole atmosphere felt more like a formal gala than a typical bridal shower. I'm pretty sure she caught the look on my face too. That mix of wow and okay then. She gave a small knowing smile and moved on to the next guests. I spent time catching up with my family and made an effort to introduce myself to people I didn't know, including my sister's future in-laws. Her future mother-in-law was polite, but still noticeably cold. I also tried to engage with Shady's friend group, but the responses were short, distant, and not particularly welcoming. The biggest thing I noticed, though, wasn't the luxury, it was the atmosphere. My family felt out of place, and that's not who we are. We're loud, competitive, love games, and we usually turn events like this into something chaotic in the best way. This time, people were quiet, reserved, almost hesitant to fully participate. It felt like they were trying to match a tone that wasn't natural to them. Meanwhile, my sister was glowing. She was making rounds, smiling, enjoying herself, but mostly staying close to Shady and her group. She looked happy, and that matters a lot to me. When Sweetie arrived, she gave me a look that said everything without saying a word. We both felt it. Then came the games. Shady led them along with her group in a space that looked more like a luxury hotel lounge than a party room. Again, everything was polished, but the energy just wasn't there. It highlighted the difference between the two sides of the family in a way that I don't think anyone expected. Later that evening, my sister and her fiancé came over to my house to spend time with the relatives who had come in from out of town. Everything felt normal again until one comment shifted things. One of my cousins casually asked why I hadn't been the one to host the shower. Before I could even answer, my future brother-in-law jumped in and said, "It's actually inappropriate for a sister to host a bridal shower." That caught me off guard. I looked at my sister. She didn't react. She was playing with my child, but I know she heard it. And that's when something clicked. I started wondering if there was more happening behind the scenes than I'd realized. My future brother-in-law's family is very affluent, and while that's never been an issue before, it made me think about expectations. He knows our family. He's been to our gatherings. He knows they're fun, loud, and not formal at all. And his family, well, they operate very differently. So now I can't help but question it. Was this really just Shady stepping in? Or was there pressure, directly or indirectly, to make the event fit a certain standard? Was she simply the person who carried that out? And if that's the case, why not just say something? I would have been flexible. I would have adapted. What's been difficult isn't just that things changed. It's that everything changed quietly without conversation, and I was just left to figure it out after the fact. At this point, I'm not even that upset anymore. It just feels strange, like things happened around me instead of with me. It's hard not to notice that. But for now though, I'm letting it go. On to planning the bachelorette. ETA. Yes, I still plan to remain maid of honor and support my sister, but maybe emotionally stepping back is necessary. Let's be real. This didn't just happen. People don't quietly replace the maid of honor's role without direction or approval from somewhere. Whether it was your sister, her fiancé, or both, this was a coordinated shift. The issue isn't that the shower was nicer, it's that you were sidelined without a conversation. Your future brother-in-law basically confirmed it with that "it's inappropriate for a sister to host" comment. It doesn't make sense, by the way. Someone decided your version of the event wouldn't meet their standards, and instead of talking to you, they changed everything through someone else. Shady is just the scapegoat. I think the hardest part here is realizing your sister knew more than she let on and chose not to loop you in. Her letting you get pushed aside matters more than anything that Shady did. At some point, this stopped being about a bridesmaid overstepping and became about your sister allowing it. You can still support her, but you'd be naive not to see what's happening. So she got demoted from matron of honor to "thank you for attending." No memo, just vibes. Right. Promoted someone else, downgraded OP, and called it "keeping things smooth." How convenient. And suddenly there's a rule book about who can host? Sure didn't see that in the group chat. Funny how the rules only showed up after OP did all the work. Timing's incredible. My wife ran the finances for most of our 30-year marriage. I recently took over after I found out how much debt we're in. For most of our marriage, my wife has run the finances. This arrangement worked well for us, but I always felt like things weren't quite right. We had this arrangement because it allowed me to focus on my career while she ran the household. For most of our marriage, money was always an issue, but not terribly so. I always had a cursory understanding of what things looked like, but really turned a blind eye. In January of this year, I decided that I'd take over completely. This was after our accounts were frequently overdrawn and multiple loans were being taken out in my name. What I found horrified me. We are over $500,000 in debt, including our house, and all of our credit cards were maxed out. I immediately put us on a budget and had to cancel all of her recurring donations to various dog rescue agencies. She's now quite upset with me and is accusing me of making her subservient, locked out, and not including her in financial decisions. I've already managed to pay off well over $10,000 and I plan to continue. Am I the jerk? Edit. There was a lot of sage advice, and some had actually experienced this with their ex-spouses. I think my path is clear and I have some hard tasks ahead of me. Yes, I could have been more involved, and that does make me partially the jerk. The lesson is learned and I will move forward, but she's also committed some errors that could lead to legal problems later. I'm going to choose to let that go in order to dissolve the marriage peacefully, with an understanding that she should accept an appropriately generous offer for alimony. I do not wish her ill will or harm. It's simply not in my makeup to do that. I won't respond to anything else today, but I might do so tomorrow. Not the jerk. She did a terrible job of managing your finances. Everyone sucks here. How do you not know you're this much in debt? It shouldn't be a shock. Just because your wife handles your finances doesn't mean you shouldn't know what's going on with regard to spending and debt. While she may have done a horrible job at handling the money, the real problem is that you two never figured it out together. In any romantic relationship, the formula for success is both finding a plan that the two of you arrive at together that you both agree with, that you both can stick to, and that makes sense. You can't spend more than you make. Not for long. Am I the jerk for skipping my friend's birthday without warning because his girlfriend called me the typical girl best friend? Miles and I have known each other since we were 2 because our parents are best friends. Now, I wouldn't say that Miles is my best friend. He's a good friend and we do hang out on occasion, but we see each other on all major holidays because of our parents. We're in our early 20s. The problem started because of a dumb childhood memory. In 3rd grade, we were in a play together. I played the bride and Miles played the groom. It was just a play with horrible songs and uncoordinated kids. Of course, our parents made pictures and videos of that, and we each have one picture on our family walls. Miles is now dating Lindy. They met 3 years ago and started dating last year. Lindy does not like me. So every time we have a celebration, she makes a comment about me being the typical girl best friend. She one time said I secretly wanted to hook up with Miles. I have no clue where she got that impression from. Miles and I have different friend groups and schedules. Besides the monthly catch-up over food, we didn't really meet that much. Things got worse when Lindy saw the wedding play picture. The comments just got more and more. She even started DMing me on Instagram, saying she knew what game I was playing. I talked to Miles once about this, and he told me to give her time. So his birthday was on Saturday, and I was invited. Lindy wrote me saying something along the lines that she was going to supervise me. This was their first birthday as a couple, and I was not allowed to take up his time. I was honestly just fed up. I tried talking to Miles once more, but he said the same thing. So I just skipped out. When the party started, I wrote a quick, "Sorry, I can't come," and told him my mother was going to bring his present. Now he's upset with me for missing his birthday. Lindy is mad that I made it all about myself, and my parents are upset that I missed a family function. Am I the jerk? Edit. I didn't show anyone the messages because I didn't want to make more out of this than it already is. I didn't want to turn anyone against Lindy, especially not if she's a new fixture in Miles' life. That would make both our lives more difficult. I hope that just talking about it might be the more adult thing to do. My parents are not mad at me or blowing up my phone. They and Miles' parents were just bummed out that this was his first birthday that I ever missed. As to why she's jealous, I have no idea. Neither of our parents ever wanted us to get together. There were no jokes or anything about it. I think they also never want that. The wedding play picture is in the living rooms because they loved the picture and it was our first play. Not the jerk. Miles' girlfriend is insanely insecure and jealous of you. You've tried talking to Miles about it and he won't do anything about it. You're basically getting threatening messages from her at this point. Of course you don't want to be around her. Your parents should understand that their relationship with Miles' parents is just that, their relationship. It's not a family function, whatever they wish it to be. The onus shouldn't fall on you to maintain a friendship with Miles if it isn't working out under the current circumstances. I do hope the two of you can work things out since you've been friends for so long, but you don't have to if it doesn't work for you, and you don't need to feel guilty about it. OP should also show the messages to her parents and Miles and let those messages do the talking instead of trying to explain it herself. Why is it okay to take crap just because you know them? I can never understand that mentality. Good on OP for not going to the party and giving the girlfriend a chance to insult her more. You've known Miles for over 20 years and his family is close with yours. Your not being at his party was noticed and you're taking all the blame for Lindy's actions and insecurities. Screenshot her messages to you and send them to your parents and put it on record that you're not attending was at Lindy's jealous behest, not the jerk. But seriously, if your parents expect your involvement, they need to know the truth of why you weren't there. Not the jerk. He can't have his cake and eat it, as in, he can't refuse to do something about the problem, then get mad at you for doing something about the problem. I understand why you didn't want to go, and I'd probably do the same. His girlfriend doesn't seem worth the mental energy, and she's clearly got insecurities that you shouldn't have to deal with. Not the jerk, but to be honest, I avoid guys like the plague who have a girl best friend, and most of my friends are the same. Like, we have no problem actually being the girl best friend, but we would never date a dude who has one. It's because the girl best friend will always come first, before the girlfriend, because girlfriend is the newcomer. So basically, we as the best friend get to always come first and keep him wrapped around our finger, but not have to actually deal with dating him. Edit. Not sure why I'm getting downvoted. Is honesty just too much for some of you to handle? My wife is 2 months pregnant and told me that she wants to move before we have kids. I'm 31 male, and my wife, who's 28, is originally from Chicago, and I've been married to her for 5 years, and it's been great. We've had one issue throughout: where to live. While dating, I told her that my career and family were in Fort Lauderdale. At the time, I was visiting family in Chicago and frequently traveled there for work. We met, one thing led to another, and before we knew it, we were married. For the past 5 years, she's been actively throwing tantrums about living in Fort Lauderdale and constantly makes me feel like I'm wronging her by not giving in to her desire by moving to Chicago so that she can be close to her 2 sisters and big family. Now that she's pregnant, unplanned, she's claiming that she is stuck here with me and now cannot leave me and pursue people in Chicago. She constantly puts down my small family, who have all been kind to her for the past 5 years, and claims that the only friends she has made here were in her PhD program. Her argument is that, as the mother, she should be near her family while raising kids. Again, besides this, our marriage is solid as a rock. She recently graduated from her PhD program and is only looking for jobs in Chicago. In the meantime, I've supported her while she's been in school and built my career as a wealth planner, focused on fixed income accounts here in Fort Lauderdale area. My hours are long, but not too bad, and I have a solid office that's walking distance from our rented house. Moving to a suburb of Chicago would require me to get an entirely new job and likely lead to an hour commute into the downtown area. Thinking about raising kids and losing an hour and a half of time with them every day sounds terrible. Overall, I'm happy with my life here and would like to raise a family locally and near my parents. My parents are generally helpful and would be more than willing to help us with kids. My wife simply prefers her family. I completely understand her position, but just don't think it's fair to ask me to sacrifice everything I've worked hard to build at this point. Any advice on the situation at all for approaching how I can best navigate? Edit. I'd like to clarify a few points. I see how my comment about her having temper tantrums came across, and I cannot emphasize more that I regret phrasing the situation like that. That came from a place of anger. My wife and I both have said things we regret, and this is likely a reflection of our mutual resentment on the issue. My fear is that she will continue to change her mind about things. For example, finances, baby names, schooling, etc. How do I know she won't just push like this on every issue? Something I did not previously mention is that my wife's family does not like me since they perceive me to be stubborn. The feelings are mutual. As a result, they never helped us get on our feet earlier on in our marriage and career, and often allowed us to struggle while living off my early career income. My wife had some health issues 2 years ago, and we used a lot of our savings to cover those, close to $20,000. Her parents are very successful and could have easily covered the expense. They even bought a baby grand piano around the same time, around $14,000 or so. Everything worked out financially, but I still resent them for allowing us to struggle and certainly do not need them for a support system. I cannot work remote as I work in a smaller office and I'm hoping to acquire the business when my boss retires. I need as much face time with clients as possible so that I can keep their business when this happens. The initial cost of starting my career over somewhere else is more than $150,000, and I may never be in a similar position again. Really fell into a great situation. Before we got married, I made it very clear that I do not want to be in Chicago. She agreed. I understand people can change their minds, but I don't think it's fair to ask me to do the same. Keep in mind, I'm not demanding that she now gets a job or anything like that, but things would change in Chicago. Many of you doubted our marriage's stability, but even she has said that we are absolutely the best of friends besides this issue. We spend as much time together as possible and did not simply get married without thinking about whether or not we're compatible. My wife and I are both highly educated and overthink everything. A lot of you think that she would end up going without me. I really do not think so since we have discussed this at length. The larger risk is her resenting me. She could make me miserable until I give in. I would never be an absentee father. By only looking for jobs in Chicago, she's making it pretty clear that she's going to move to Chicago, with or without you. How do people with incompatible ideas of what their lives should look like get to marriage and pregnancy? Is it with the secret hope that one will just wear the other down and suddenly everyone's going to be happy like that? So, I'm not understanding why you are fine with her sacrificing everything to live with you, but you aren't even considering doing the same for her. She's lived with you in a town she does not like, away from her support system for years. She's now pregnant and starting her career. It's a perfect time to consider moving to Chicago. And why wouldn't you, given that she has lived in your preferred location close to your family for 5 years now? It would take some doing. Maybe you have to work fewer hours. Maybe you have to commute more. Maybe you have to coordinate daycares in your new area so they're close to work. But you could do it. Look, I don't know what you guys should do, but you come off in this post as really selfish and dismissive of her needs. This is a time to focus on her and your new family, and if you don't do that, you will lose them. Yes, exactly. If the main complaint is a possible job, start a job search and see what the options are. Based on his post, they agreed to live in Florida before they got married. Now that she's pregnant, she wants to move to Chicago. If your partner changes their mind on a decision that was agreed upon, you have every right to be shocked. She had 5 years of marriage to decide it wasn't where she wanted to be before getting pregnant. I can't remember if it says how long she lived there before they married. There isn't a compromise to be had in the decision of where to live. If they stay in Florida, he wins. If they move to Chicago, she wins. Moving there to try to figure it out isn't a reasonable solution. If he doesn't like it, then he can't just get his old job and clients back. They will move on and not return to someone they can't rely on. They have to figure this out in some way. Someone will lose, or they will move to Nashville and they both lose. The only good solution was to decide this before they got married and had a kid, but it sounds like OP thought they did that. Am I the jerk for never asking my wealthy in-laws to invite my siblings or immediate family on our big vacations? My wife and I have been married for about 8 years now. I had a pretty generic middle-class upbringing, while her family would be considered old money. I have no idea how much wealth they actually have, but it's multi-generational, and needless to say, they'll never worry about money. They never give us cash outright, but for each of our kids' birthdays, they set aside $100,000 in an interest-bearing account for their college, and they've been extremely generous with the vacations they've taken us on. My wife and I both have pretty good jobs, and while we have the security of knowing if we ever needed it, they would help us, we are able to support our not very fancy lifestyle ourselves. This July, we're going on a trip with our kids and her family, including the nuclear families of her 2 siblings, and then a few family friends of theirs. Mother-in-law and father-in-law are paying for everything, including the flights, the villa we're staying at, and various meals and activities. This will be their 5th vacation like this that they've taken us on, not including our honeymoon that they paid for. I never imagined being this close to that kind of wealth, but before I have to say, they've been nothing but welcoming and generous with me, even offering me high-paying jobs I probably don't deserve, and offering to pay for my grad school if I choose to go. My sister recently asked me what my summer plans were and if I had any trips. I told her about this one, and she got noticeably annoyed and jealous. She asked me why I've never asked about inviting her and her family, since other friends of the family get invited often to these big trips. Some have had 10 to 20 non-family members there that they hosted and paid for. To be honest, I never even thought about asking to include my relatives in that, but I feel like that'd come off a little greedy, so I just don't. I told her that, and she thinks I'm being selfish. I think a lot of it is just jealousy, which I can understand, because she's complained about never being to Europe, and it's splurging for her to just go on a regional vacation. I do feel like that is kinda totally unrelated to my situation though. Not the jerk. Your sister is jealous and overstepping, and yes, you would come off as greedy. It's not your place to suggest to your in-laws more people to bring along on their trip. They're taking their daughter, her kids, and her husband. You are the +1 in this case. That gives your sister 0 reason to expect to be included. Enjoy your trip. Tell your sister to be brave and make her demand to your in-laws for an all-expense-paid vacation. Then watch how she shuts up. Your sister wants you to do her dirty work for her at the risk of losing your privileged position with your in-laws and insulting them plus your wife. She seems a bit immature to not realize yet that life isn't fair and she can't get whatever she wants. Not the jerk. Would I be the jerk for not letting my roommate have her boyfriend over at my house anymore because she won't let him help me? I, 26 female, have a roommate who's also 26, who I've known for over a decade, and we are also now coworkers. She's been here for about half a year, and ever since she moved in, she's always had a boyfriend that stays over, practically lives at my house half the days out of the week, which doesn't bother me enough to say anything about it, but at the end of the day, it is another person being over at my house all the time. The issue that's recently sparked up is that I messaged her and asked if he could help us take some things from the garage to the dump, so we can clear it out since my garage is filled with both her and my stuff. In my head, he has a truck and is a guy, so he would be able to help us move heavy things, and usually guys love helping women with this kind of stuff, so why not ask, right? She responds with, "I'm not going to ask him to do that. He already does enough for me, and it's not his responsibility." Now, I'm not an unreasonable person. I understand that it isn't technically his responsibility, and I never insinuated that. I do feel like it's a fair thing to ask of him since he stays over at my house rent-free. It makes me feel a bit uncomfortable and unliked and rejected having people live in my house who don't think I'm worth helping with things. Yes, I plan on having a talk with her about this, but I just wanted to get outside perspective to help me see if I'm being rational about this before I have the talk with her. Edit. I asked a friend of an old friend if he would help me move the stuff from my garage to the dump. He said he's happy to help and offered to use his truck since it's bigger. I will be buying him lunch since he's doing it during his lunch break. As for the roommate situation, I've decided to stop expecting friendly favors and will discontinue being lenient on the amount of rent paid and will no longer tolerate late payments. You guys share a house. Your garage is full of garbage that belongs to both of you. You want it cleaned out. You asked if your housemate's boyfriend, who has probably seen the garage, if he could help haul it away. You didn't demand anything. Judging by the living arrangements and her response, you're probably feeling disrespected and pushed out of your own home. Not the jerk, but if your friend is that angry with you for asking for a favor, you may want to reconsider future living arrangements. Tough spot for you to be in. Best wishes going forward. What is the rent payment like, besides you already taking less than agreed due to her circumstances? How does utilities work if he's there so often? Does the rates go up and is she covering that? If not, him helping you with household tasks like that in lieu of additional utilities seems reasonable. Either way, this situation now sounds uncomfortable, and you should review the roommate agreement and see if you both want to continue on. OP. She gets her own bathroom and private kitchen and living room, and all utilities are included. We agreed on $700, but she's been paying $600 instead, which I was happy to do because when she first moved in, she was an absolute delight, and I wanted her to feel welcomed and appreciated. Not the jerk. You essentially have 2 roommates, and it's generally expected that all roommates contribute to take care of the home. Grow a spine. Ask him yourself, and then dig deep and tell your one official roommate that they can pay more to include the extra roommate and outline your expectations of home chores. Honestly, I'm a sociopath with high self-awareness, and I would have to control myself from taking advantage of you on a regular basis. It's a compulsion I struggle with, and a reason I cannot be friends with mentally or emotionally weak people. You strike me as both. It's something you should work on to avoid people like your roommate from taking advantage of you throughout the rest of your life. Victim blaming much? People like you are the #1 reason why good people are reducing in number day by day. Although I appreciate your advice, which is very solid to be honest, but you didn't have to call her mentally and emotionally weak. She is not a mental patient who has an urge to use and take advantage of people like you are. She saw that her friend needed help, so she chimed in, but her friend turned out to be a jerk. But none of that is her fault. My wife thinks I'm a coward for not fighting a homeless guy who was rude to us, and I think she's a jerk for expecting me to. So I'm 30 male, and my wife is 29 female. We celebrated our 9th anniversary by going out overnight for the first time since we had kids 8 years ago. It was a really big deal to stay at a hotel away from our kids. Grandparents were watching them. We live in the country and have not really been to the big city a lot, so we're not used to how things work down there. We were walking around seeing all the different sights and doing tourist things when we decided to try to rent those electric scooters that you see on the street corners. I set mine up on the phone and it worked fine. However, my wife could not figure it out, so we switched scooters and phones, so she was using my original scooter and was using my phone, and I was on her scooter using her phone trying to get it to work. About 10 minutes of me messing with this to no avail, this homeless guy runs over with, what he told us later, were 2 cases of stolen soda. He told us that we were dumb tourists and give him my phone and he'll fix it. I figured, why not? And I let him use the phones, and he said we were dumb tourists again and that we never put the payment type in for my wife's phone. I just joked with him and said, yeah, we are from the country and have never used this kind of stuff before. He said he is so much smarter than me and my wife and that he was practically a genius. My wife shot back that he was just street smart and she was a lot more book smart than he was. I just laughed it off and told him, yes, you're a genius. Can I have my phone back? And he gave it back and ran off yelling that he was going to sell his stolen soda for free food. My wife brought this up 4 days later, saying she was mad I did not defend her from the crazy homeless guy, and I'm a coward for not fighting with him over the fact that he called her dumb. We had a huge fight over this, because from my point of view, yeah, he was rude, but it was more funny the fact that we couldn't get the scooters to work, and a random homeless person told us that we were dummies and showed us how to do it, and it's not worth it to fight a homeless person because they're rude. Her point of view is I should have defended her from the homeless person, and have gotten into a fight to do so. Am I wrong here? Edit. It seems like I was not very clear, and I've seen a lot of comments thinking my wife wanted me to assault the guy. She was not necessarily wanting me to assault him, but to get into a verbal argument and fight with him, which I believe could become physical, because he called us dumb. Dude, don't hand your phone to strangers in the city. You're lucky you got it back. Not the jerk for refusing to argue with a stranger though. Not the jerk. I can't believe she's so insecure about her intelligence that she actually told a homeless man she has more book smarts than him. That's what a petty kid does. Who cares what some random homeless guy says? The fact that she wanted you to physically fight the guy is literally crazy. What type of people is she spending her time with, or what shows is she watching where it seems like a normal next step to her? Arguing with any stranger on the street about who is smarter is one of the dumbest things anyone can do. What are you, 12? OP didn't argue with anyone. He laughed it off and possibly de-escalated the situation. Karen divorces me and demands to still use my car. My ex-wife, who's 37 female, and I, 31 male, were together for almost 6 years and have 2 daughters, who are 5 and 7. She filed for divorce because she wasn't happy anymore with me, and we've now been divorced for almost 2 years. It was very difficult for me, especially not being able to see my daughters all the time,
but we were able to arrange a 50-50 split custody agreement, and I also pay court-ordered child support since I earn significantly more than her. But looking back, I realized that divorce was the right decision, and the divorce has motivated me to pursue my career more and focus on my physical health. It has definitely paid off. I'm in the most comfortable position financially that I've ever been in and have been in the best shape of my life. So I guess in a way, the divorce was a start for me to reach my full potential. My ex-wife and I have a good co-parenting relationship, but nothing more. I've been doing great, so the last thing I want is to have my ex entangled in my life more than she already is. I only communicate with her about the kids and shut down any attempt of her trying to involve herself in my life that doesn't involve our kids. My ex recently called me and told me that she hasn't been doing great financially and that she has completely burned through her savings to pay rent and bills on her own to the point where she had to sell her car a few months ago. She said that she's been using public transportation to get to work and pick the kids up from school, which she says completely stresses her out because it's an almost 1-hour bus ride to her work, making her late a lot and having no time to properly do anything besides work and picking up and taking care of the kids when she has them. I currently own 2 cars, one that I use on a daily basis to go to work and run errands. I bought a more expensive car about a year ago, and I pretty much only use it when I'm going out on weekends or out on dates. Knowing that I have 2 cars, my ex asked me if she could use one of my cars to help her out so that she can have a life besides work and kids. I told her that her being able to have a life besides the kids has nothing to do with me and is not my responsibility. I told her that the kids are my only responsibility towards her and that anything else in her life is her problem since I'm not her husband anymore. She told me that I'm insensitive and that being terrible isn't going to lead to anything. I just told her that the financial security that I provide isn't something she has the right to anymore and that she has to deal with her own problems now. Am I the jerk? Edit. Everything our kids need is within walking distance of my ex's place. It's her job that requires her to take those hour-long bus rides. I'm not gonna leave a judgment, but you sound so bitter. Maybe get some therapy. She's the mother of your kids. Your job as a father should be to make their lives easier. You sound like a jerk, and I can only guess why she divorced you. You'd be helping your kids, which is what you should do. And be careful of alienating your kids from their mother because your bank account is larger. That would be considered mistreatment, and courts don't like that. Be a decent human being. I'll vote no jerks here, purely on technicality, because technically you're right. You don't have to let your ex borrow your car or let her have any more emotional space in your life beyond your kids. But I don't really understand how you don't see that your ex being miserable will have a negative impact on your kids. Your problems aren't mine is quite the ignorant notion towards someone who's raising your kids 50% of the time. There will always be an entanglement. Also, to me, it doesn't sound like you're being completely honest about being in a better place than when you were married. Otherwise, you wouldn't be so unempathetic towards your ex-wife. You're the jerk. You're not responsible for her, no, and I don't think you should give her your car or be responsible for her. But don't forget your kids here. Even if the situation is entirely because your wife is terrible, don't you want to be good to your kids? What you should be thinking here is, what can I do to make things better for my kids? Which may or may not involve you doing something for your ex. You can't say you're 50-50 parenting when you don't give a hoot about them the other 50% of the time. Have a grown-up conversation. How can you both parent your kids better? You're the jerk. This post comes across as very smug and cringy. You spent half the post talking yourself up. What has your fitness got to do with anything? Basically, she wounded your ego by leaving you, and now you get to lord it over her financially. I doubt many of these women you're pursuing would be very impressed if they knew the mother of your kids is struggling to survive, even more so that you have an extra car on the driveway whilst they have none. Do you want your daughters to look back at their childhood and remember the disparity in both your living situations? Lavishly at yours and scraping by at their mothers? Knowing that you go on expensive dates and have a flashy car to peacock them around in? Or do you want them to look back and remember you gave their mother a car so they could get to school and extra money so they could buy groceries? Personally, I'd choose the high road, but it's up to you. Am I the jerk for not removing the Disney items from my house? I'm 35, female. My husband, who's 38, and I are what you would call Disney adults. We used to work for the parks in college and met there. For us, it has sentimental value as well as being something we both loved from our childhood. Now, we are conscious to not be those Disney adults. We can hold conversations outside of the movies and parks. We both work well-paying jobs unrelated to the company. We have other hobbies and interests as well. Our son isn't big on Disney, and we're cool with that. It's just something that we enjoy, as well as our daughters. We nurture all of our kids' hobbies and interests. We also don't blow all of our money on this stuff. I know I may sound overly defensive, but we get a lot of comments from people who don't know us well. Anyway, we live in a renovated farmhouse on a bit of land that includes a barn that we finished off, with hopes to make it a guest house one day. In the meanwhile, we've had a relative get married here, and it was gorgeous. Now my sister, who's 28, wants to get married on our property, and we were all for it. Everything's been planned for months, and the wedding is in June. It's set to be outside completely, but if it rains, we can move the party into the barn. The only reason a guest would have to go in our house is to use the bathroom. We have 2 on the first floor. The only Disney items are Winnie the Pooh hand towels. I told my sister I'd replace them with regular ones. Wedding space has no Disney items. However, she wants me to take down everything Disney on the first floor of my home, as guests will see it. We have a lot of Disney items: pictures, paintings, blankets, Funko Pops, decorations, figurines, dishware, etc. And a lot of it is subtle or vintage, but you can still tell it's Disney. 1. This would be a massive undertaking. It's not as simple as shoving stuff in a closet. We'd have to pack it up and find a place to store it. The sheer amount would require at least 2 hours of packing, not to mention storage and unpacking after. 2. It's ridiculous to me. Who cares if people see? She says it looks tacky and she doesn't want people to remember her wedding for that. I told her no. We're decorating the outside and barn as she wants. We're letting her use our property for free, which she keeps bragging about to friends as it's saving them a ton. When my husband and I stood firm, she whined to our parents, who told us to grow up and take it down. Not the jerk. Your sister doesn't want her wedding to be associated with Disney? Your sister wants full control of the space and decoration. I have an idea. She should rent her own venue. Seriously, enforce your boundaries and say that's as far as you're willing to go. If she wants to change everything, she needs to rent a different venue. My girlfriend went nuts with my credit card, so I disabled it. I'm male, 26, and my girlfriend is 21. We've been together for 3 years. She moved in with me. She doesn't work, so yeah, she obviously doesn't pay anything. She goes to college full-time, which I'm fine with, and I provide her with her basic essentials, but I told her not to spend my money carelessly on stupid things. Just things that she needs for school, or food, or household things. Her parents also send her an additional $200 a month. Whenever we get in an argument, she goes nuts with my credit card. I got a bunch of charges on clothes, Bath & Body Works, Lululemon, Target, and a bunch of other shopping centers. She gets really mad whenever we have an argument, and she acts like a kid, and she feels better by spending my money on a bunch of stupid things. She returned half of the useless things she got that afternoon. This is literally how she blows off steam, by spending other people's money. She told me when she was in high school, she ordered $200 worth of Sephora items when she was mad at her parents. I told her to never do that to me, and she said she wouldn't, but she did anyways. I also got sick of this pattern, so I temporarily closed the credit card that she had access to, and that started a fight when she tried to buy Einsteins on her campus. She told me that I'm being unreasonable and unfair for cutting her off, and I'm mistreating her because I'm closing my credit card, which is under my own name. I warned her so many times to stop using my card on senseless purchases, especially when she's upset with me, and she didn't stop, so I felt like I had no other choice but to temporarily close my card. I don't think I'm overreacting. I don't think I'm being unreasonable, especially when I warned her about misusing my money. I don't think I'm wrong. Am I the jerk? You're not wrong for doing that. It sounds like she needs to stop feeling entitled to other people's money and actually start taking responsibility for her own actions. Also, who in their 20s is giving out their credit card information to their significant other? I've been in a committed 5-year relationship in my 30s, and I would never give someone access to my finances that I wasn't married to. Just an absolute recipe for disaster. Sounds like she needs a job. Even if it's just part-time to pay for her own spending and food on the side. She needs to learn how to be responsible with money, her own money, not yours. You're not wrong. Also, cutoff shouldn't be temporary. She needs to get a part-time job, that way she can spend her own money when she's upset. She really has some nerve. Stop being a pushover. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. If she was smarter, she would have waited until they were married to start acting like this. That way the Redditors could be like, "It's not your money, you're married, it belongs to both of you." I turned the tables on my ex-wife's attempt to make me back out last minute from coaching kids t-ball. About a year out from divorce, ex-wife has been acting petty and childish to say the least. Tries to make me look bad any attempt she gets. My young son played t-ball last year, and I volunteered to be the coach. Really enjoyed it, but my work responsibilities/schedule changed before the season, and I simply could not commit to do it again. I became good friends with the guy running the league and let him know before the sign-ups even started as a heads up. Was disappointed, but not much to do. What I was able to do was volunteer to get to the field super early Saturday before the game started to set them up. Chalk line the batter boxes, foul lines, put out bases, etc. 3 fields total, which he was extremely grateful for. A few weeks before the season was supposed to start, they were unfortunately short a couple coaches and were sending out some desperation emails to all of the parents. My ex knew my situation and apparently thought going onto the website and basically fraudulently volunteering me to coach would be a great way to inconvenience me, make me look bad by having to back out, etc. So she did just that. Buddy running the league called me, very confused. In order to register, you have to make a username and password. Username is just your email, so after a few minutes of looking through the registration, we worked out what happened, as her email was in the account name. Ultimately, he decided to put his kid on my son's team and be the coach on top of everything else he was doing. He was upset at my ex himself though, because this stunt could have set him back finding a legit coach if they needed to, possibly delaying the league. Here's where I come up with the petty revenge. He sends out the official email out to all of the parents of the league with the rosters and coaches for all 10 teams, except for our kid's team. Instead of listing himself, I tell him to list my ex, put her name, contact info, etc., and says to expect further info from each coach individually. She emails him back once she notices to point out the mistake, saying it should have been me instead, but he ignores it. He sends her all of the clearances coaches need to pass, asks for times she can pick up equipment, the whole 9 yards. After a couple of days, parents of the team apparently start emailing her asking for info on when the season starts and when practice will be and all of that. Eventually, he does reply back, playing dumb, telling her she's the one who volunteered as it was her username that registered, and knew it wasn't supposed to be me as he had spoken to me months earlier and knew I wasn't able to do it this year. Put her in an awkward spot because she either had to admit what she did or feign some BS ignorance and claim a miscommunication, which everyone knew was nonsense as we were divorced. After she flat out says she can't coach and she isn't sure what to tell him, he sends out another email to the entire league which says, "Due to the coach of our kid's team's name backing out at the very last minute, I have no choice but to take on coaching the team myself, on top of the rest of the responsibilities. Moving forward, we ask that coaches do not volunteer unless they plan on fulfilling that commitment." He didn't mention her by name, but everyone saw the rosters and knew he was talking about her. She texted me a few weeks later once the season started about how my buddy is a jerk for doing that to her due to a glitch in the registration software, as multiple people have approached and asked her not so nicely what happened, and she knows she's getting looks from people during the games. What a satisfying text it was to receive. Am I the jerk for telling my husband that his affair child is not welcome in our home, and if he wants custody, he will have to move out? My husband and I have been married for 9 years. In 2021, we found out my husband was being sued for child support. Turns out, my husband had an affair shortly after we were married. It nearly ended our marriage, but we went to counseling together and I agreed to stay in the marriage with the following provisions. My husband was to get a second job so that his child support payments did not affect our household budget and that at no point in time would I ever consider having a relationship with their kid. If he wanted to pursue one with them, fine, but I have absolutely zero interest in that. So my husband has been getting to know his kid over the past couple years, and recently my husband came to me and informed me that there was some sort of baby mama drama. Apparently, she has to self-surrender in May and is going to be incarcerated for 8 months. My husband told me that he needed to take custody while his affair partner is locked up. Otherwise, the kid would have to go to their grandparents, who basically live on the opposite coast from us. Their kid doesn't want to have to change schools or be so far away from their friends, dad and mom. She will be doing her time fairly local to us. So after my husband told me that, I got up and left the house. I went to the grocery store on the corner and grabbed a copy of our area's apartment guide, went back home and handed it to him. He asked if I was serious. I told him I still felt the same way I did 3 years ago. He said he didn't think that was fair, considering the extenuating circumstances. I told him I don't care about the circumstances. His kid is not welcome in my home. If he wanted to take custody, I will grant him an amicable divorce, but I'm not changing my mind. I'm not taking care of some other chick's kid. Edit. For all the people concerned about what a whipcracker I am and making my poor husband work 2 jobs, he has never had a full-time job since we've been together. He works 2 part-time retail jobs now that adds up to 40 to 50 hours a week. He currently only has supervised visitation with his kid. They only see each other once or twice a month for a couple hours with a social worker present. And for those who seem to think that I need to be the one to file for divorce, no, I will not. I'm not the one who created this situation. If my husband wants to pursue custody, I've told him I will not fight it. I will grant him an amicable divorce and let him be on his way. However, I'm not going to waste my own time, energy, and money to do so. He's responsible for getting his own ducks in a row for the situation he created. That includes being the one to go through the headache of filing. The kid will always be there. Seems like you should cut your losses and move on from this relationship. Sad, but you will probably be happier in the long run. This marriage should have ended years ago. Why are you still with him? In no way do I think it's your responsibility to raise the kid, but it is his responsibility, and this poor kid didn't ask for any of it. The whole situation would be happier and healthier if y'all just split up. Am I the jerk for telling my sister I'm tired of her taking from me and acting like it's what I was born for? So I technically was born for her to take from. I'm a savior sibling, and that was the only reason my parents had a second kid. They were one and done with my sister, but when she was 2, she got sick, so they had me to save her. Growing up, I felt every bit of the lack of interest my parents had in me. I knew before I hit middle school that my parents had me for one reason only. Yet I saw them adore and spoil my sister and make sure she had everything. I grew up watching her grow up with devoted parents while I had none. Because of the way we were raised, my sister and I were never close. She was used to getting what she wanted and being spoiled. I was forgotten until she needed something, like blood. If I ever happened to have something she wanted, you bet my parents let her have it, and they had no time for me complaining about it. They had no time for me, period. I'm sure on some level they were grateful that I had fulfilled my purpose, but nobody will ever convince me that they love me. Now we're both in our 20s, and my sister has tried to have a relationship. But it's still a lot of her wanting her way and for me to pay for her, but she gets to choose where we go and what we do. I'm expected to give her food off my plate. She ignores when I bring up how our childhood wasn't perfect like she always talks about. She brings up how I wasn't present for stuff, and in the same sentence will talk about it being the best day. Eventually, I stopped saying yes, or if I did, I refused to pay and refused to go along with what she wanted, and we saw each other far less. I also heard from her far less, which to me said she didn't really want a sister. She just wanted the person she was used to getting whatever from. A couple of weeks ago, she showed up at my house, where I live with friends and our partners, and she told me that she needed a place to stay and attempted to invite herself in. She looked rough, so I told her she could get some food and something to drink, but she needed to stay somewhere else. I suggested she call our parents. She didn't want to go anywhere else and was trying to befriend my boyfriend and the other partners, since she knew my friends don't like her. I made it very clear and insisted she figure something else out. She told me I should be more willing to help her out, and why do I never want to do anything for her? I snapped at her saying that, and I told her I'm so tired of her taking from me and acting like it's what I was born to do. I told her our parents might have had me for that reason, but I'm more than that, and I never had a say in any of that, and if she wants to talk about things not being fair, then she should think more on that. She had a very explosive reaction and left. She said afterwards I suck for blaming her for our parents' actions. It just frustrated me because she doesn't acknowledge her own actions in that. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You weren't blaming her for your parents' actions. You were blaming her for her actions. She's spoiled and used to getting her way. The golden child can go stay with her parents. Am I the jerk for telling my stepsister I won't attend her baby shower? I, 26 female, have a stepsister who's 18. I have not seen her in many, many years. She was so young when I last saw her. My relationship with my mom, her stepmom, was never a good one. She was never a good parent to me, and when she decided to get married and settle down, while also not attempting to be a good mom to me, I made the decision to fight hard to get my dad to win custody of me, which he did when I was 13. My mom was supposed to go to therapy and classes before the courts attempted to try reunification therapy for us, but she never took those steps, so we never did the therapy together. And won't. I have zero desire to be part of her life. I had a relationship with her parents and siblings, though not a close one. I was included by them, though, and would see my mom from a distance for a few years at occasional family gatherings. My stepsister would be there also, and over time, she became far closer to my maternal side than I was. My reason for not being very close to my maternal side is they would encourage me to give mom a chance, and they would try and talk me into taking on the role of big sister for her stepdaughter because they knew my mom had zero desire to have any kids at all and would not be having more. And apparently her stepdaughter struggled with not having siblings, so they wanted me to fill that gap for her. I wasn't interested then, and I'm not today. I don't hate her, but simply put, we are not family, and I really had little to do with anyone from my mom's side in a good 4 years. I received a digital invite to the baby shower 3 weeks ago, and I RSVP'd no. This was followed by another one, and followed by a message from my stepsister saying she wanted her baby's aunt to be there. And it followed another message begging me to change my mind, and then another invitation that she personalized to ask me to be there. And she told me not to bring a gift, just me, because I would be the real gift. I told her I was not interested again, and then I blocked her. But she followed me on another platform, and then she begged and pleaded with me to change my mind. She said it wasn't too late for us to be sisters, and for me to be her baby's aunt. I told her I won't attend her baby shower, and I won't change my mind just because she keeps asking or sending invites. She told me she doesn't understand why I hate her, and this interaction prompted contact from my maternal grandparents, and they told me I shouldn't have been so cruel, and if I really had to let her down, I should have made it way softer. Am I the jerk? I'm curious why your stepsister is so fixated on having a relationship with you. It's not like you were around much, doted on her, and then disappeared. Why is it so important to family that you fulfill this person's fantasy of what his sister is like? It seems like stepsister built up this relationship in her mind without any fact or even time spent together. Like teens are fixated on famous people and insist their idols reciprocate the relationship. You seem to have no more relationship with stepsister than you have with checkout person at Target, and it fascinates me as to why your sister insists to have a relationship with you. Stepsister needs therapy to realize you do not owe her a relationship. Not the jerk. No is a full sentence. The constant messages are too much. However, it seems like this girl needs an answer and hasn't really done anything ever to not deserve one. Something like, I wish you well and all the best with your pregnancy. However, I don't want a relationship with this part of the family, and this includes you. I have my reasons for this, which I ask you to respect. If she doesn't drop it after that, you've done the best you can and not been the jerk. The block button is your friend. Same for the family members that enable. No jerks here. That girl simply wants a closer connection with you. You aren't obligated to provide it. In my opinion, you could be a little more gentle with her and provide her with an explanation as to why you're not interested to pursue a more personal relationship with her. I'm kind of 50-50 on this. You're not the jerk because you made it clear you don't want to go. However, you are the jerk because you're taking out your anger on her, and it should be directed at your mom. Your stepsister didn't ask for your mom to ignore you and treat you that way. She didn't ask your mom to be her mom. I really think you should go to therapy on your own to help you move on. Am I the jerk for refusing to pick my daughter up and instead leaving her to get lectured by her dad? My daughter Kelly's extracurricular was hosting an event that she wanted to volunteer for. The plan was that Kelly would stay for the full weekend to do the event. She would go on a bus to the building where the extracurricular is usually hosted, then I would pick her up from there since it's only a 20-minute drive from home. It was over 5 hours of driving. It took 3 hours to get there, plus another 2 hours just to sit in traffic at the car line for the event. Traffic was not nearly as bad on the return trip, luckily. My younger daughter and I were having dinner an hour away from home when I got a call from Kelly asking to come home. Nothing bad had happened. Kelly just said she didn't like the things they were having her do. Carrying boxes and supplies, manning the check-in booth, etc. She knew beforehand that she would be sleeping on a cot and a bunch of the others would be in the same area, but claimed she didn't realize what that was actually like until now and she wanted to go home. I told Kelly no, we were already hours away. Kelly started saying it wouldn't be as bad as if we were already home, and that the traffic probably wouldn't be as bad as it was earlier to get to the event. I again told Kelly no, and that frankly, her asking this was extremely inconsiderate to us in our time. There was a convention that her sister wanted to go to, but had to turn down because I had no one to take her, and Kelly promised this event was important to her. Kelly kept begging me to pick her up. I told her no and suggested she ask her dad, David, if he's willing to drive out and pick her up. Kelly eventually did end up calling David and claims that he lectured her for the entire 2 hours that he was driving them home. Kelly told her grandmother, who told me that Kelly's actions were inconsiderate. But I know Kelly and David don't get along right now, and I should have gone to get Kelly since I was closer than I would have been at home, and the 2-hour lecture was just excessive on David's end. I agree David's lecture was excessive, but Kelly could also take it away as an important lesson that when you ask other people to accommodate you for a commitment and end up breaking said commitment, people are naturally going to be upset with you. Besides, it wasn't as if Kelly was stranded in the middle of nowhere or in a bad situation. She was perfectly safe at the event. She could have either rode out the weekend or dealt with the lecture from David. I know a typical response in this situation is usually to say my mother shouldn't have any input because she isn't Kelly's parent, but she does help with the girls, and it wouldn't be right to say she isn't entitled to some input considering she has stepped up and gone out of her way as a grandparent to help in that regard. I'm looking for other perspectives because I'm still unsure of whether I should consider my mother's words and apologize to Kelly. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You gave her a choice. She could either honor the commitment she made, or if it was truly that terrible, get picked up by her father, who she knows she doesn't get along with. She decided that she'd rather inconvenience someone else and get out of a commitment that you and her sister already sacrificed for because, oh no, I didn't know that they'd actually expect volunteers to volunteer. Then she was upset that people rightfully felt inconvenienced. This is silly. How old is she? You didn't say, and it's unlikely to change my verdict, but I'm curious. I used to volunteer almost 40 hours a week for stuff when I was in high school, and those are some of my fondest memories. I'd have told her, tough luck, kiddo, you're seeing it through, so you're already being more lenient than I would. I've done much harder volunteering and slept under much worse arrangements than OP's daughter when I was much younger than 16, and not once did I ever think of calling my parents to pick me up. Sometimes you just have to suck it up, and if you can't, then good luck in the real world. She replied in another post, she's 16. All your points stand as valid. Not the jerk. I'm pretty confused as to why anyone had to pick her up. She was safe and had made a commitment. So you just left the group short to volunteer for the weekend? That kind of sucks. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her daughter? Please let us know. I guess I'm in the minority here, but if my kid calls me and tells me they're uncomfortable somewhere, I don't care how far it is, I'm gonna go pick them up. Steal my Legos for your classroom? You'll be sorry. I had 8 large storage totes of Legos when I left home for college. Besides a few family heirlooms, I told them the only thing I wanted were my Legos. They could get rid of anything else. I even offered to come pick them up and store them with me while I was in college, so they weren't a burden. My mom said it was fine, she would keep them stored. Great. Fast forward probably 12-ish years, and I've got a 5-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter who are quickly approaching Lego age. My wife and I are buying a home, and it will have a decent-sized area upstairs above the garage that we intend to turn into the playroom. I was talking to my wife about my plans. I wanted to put in padded flooring, build a fort-style structure in one corner, maybe build into the crawl space, a tunnel-type system or something, and I wanted to make an area that would be dedicated to the Legos. My wife seemed a little cagey about the plans. It would cost a bit of money, set our expectations down, etc. I obviously didn't plan on anything happening overnight. A few weeks later, and we're getting ready to head to Easter at my mom's house. I tell my wife I want to take our truck as I planned on grabbing the Legos from her place and bringing them home, and my wife gets a little cagey again. I sense that she knows something, and she finally admits it. My mom took the Legos to her classroom. My mom's a middle school teacher, 6th to 8th grades, special education in our town, and my wife is an assistant in her classroom. I guess several years ago, my mom took the Legos to the classroom for the kids to play with. I told my wife I would just get the Legos from the class at the end of the school year. However, my wife thinks I should just let it go. Some of the kids really love the Legos, and they would have a hard time if they came in after a summer away, which is already pretty hard, change and whatnot, to find out that the Legos are gone. We talked about potentially buying some Legos from Craigslist for the kids to use, but I definitely wanted my Legos back. A lot of them tend to be older. Tons were my dad's Legos when he was growing up, so I definitely want those ones. At Easter, my sister got roped into the discussion with my wife and she agreed with my wife. While we both enjoyed the Legos a lot as kids, I would be a jerk if I took my Legos back from the classroom. They both suggested starting a new collection for our kids so they can love and enjoy these ones as they grow up. But I just don't agree. Part of the reason why they were so special to me was because they were handed down to me and I got to add to them. I was hoping to be able to do that here. Would I be the jerk if I took my Legos back at the end of the year? Not the jerk. Your mom could have asked you first. Those were Legos started by your dad, so there's a sentimental value, and that's something you want to share with your kids, so it's only fair you take the Legos back. I honestly don't get these jerk parents who don't think their kids would want to pass on favorite toys to their own kids, their grandkids, one day. Not the jerk. Your mom and your sneaky wife can buy replacement Legos on Craigslist for her students, or ask the students' parents to each contribute a bunch of Lego, or both. They both were dishonest. They're your Legos, and you made it clear you wanted to keep them. Very clear. Zero wrong with wanting to keep something that was yours as a kid. Take all the Legos back at the end of the year. Inform your mom and your wife now so they can start looking for whatever replacements they need. Am I the jerk for helping my son avoid his family after his wife cheated? I don't really feel great about throwing this up on the internet, but everyone's upset with me, so this is what I've got. My son and his wife have been together for 6 years, and they have a 4-year-old daughter. They've had their problems every once in a while, but to me, it seemed like they always worked through it. I know he absolutely loves her, and I thought they were very close. But 3 days ago, my son came to my door at 10 at night, drunk, sick, and in complete tears. I guess she had been cheating on him for some time, and during an argument, she finally admitted it. He just fell apart. He could hardly breathe right. I cleaned him up and put him in bed, and that's about where he's been since. He looks sick, he won't eat. I've never seen him so upset. His wife and her family were calling us both repeatedly, but we just didn't deal with it at first. He was devastated. I wanted him to have a moment to gather himself. This morning, I bit the bullet and answered her call. She was angry he had walked out and left her with their daughter and said she just wanted to talk about this like adults. I told her that she could talk to him when he chose to contact her and that I think he'd want to work something out, but she needed to give him some space. She got more upset and I told her I wouldn't talk if she was going to throw a fit, so she hung up. I don't know what she told her family, but I've since gotten calls from her mom begging me not to let him leave her and their daughter. Her sister called to go off on me for protecting a deadbeat father. They're all freaking out. He isn't abandoning his family. His life has been turned on its head, and I want him to have some time to find his feet. It's just been 3 days. It's not like he's run away. But now everyone's angry at me for letting my son leave his daughter, which he absolutely adores his daughter. He'd never just up and leave. So am I the jerk for letting him stay with me to get away from his family? I know it leaves his wife in a tight spot, but it's been 3 days and she hardly works part-time. It's not like he's left her with an impossible task, and I absolutely intend to have my son deal with this, but I just can't see him feel like this, and I don't think he could have any meaningful conversation this way. What should I do? I'm not trying to let him hide from his responsibilities, but he's hurting and he needs time to breathe. Some additions for clarity. Of course, we've discussed the possibility that his daughter might not be biologically his, but he doesn't plan to abandon her regardless. He loves his daughter and would, despite anything. And as far as if her family knows the full story, I have no clue. I haven't even tried talking with them yet. Not the jerk. He isn't opting out on being a father. He's taking the time he needs to process information. He needs to get his crap together quick and go be a father again. He needs to divorce her, collect evidence, hire a lawyer, and get a DNA test done on his daughter. His wife has been cheating for some time. I would definitely double check. That's up to the dad. He doesn't have to do that. He could be fine with not knowing this part if he loves his daughter as is, and knowing would only change things for the negative. If he's able to put what he knows aside and not be plagued by the thought, what a saint. People have done this forever before DNA tests existed. Sometimes not knowing is the better choice. It's not up to anyone else to decide but the dad. You raise and love the kid for 4 years, and you know for sure that that's your kid. The DNA test can only tell you if they have your DNA. 4 years of being a parent, and you already know they're your kid. Not the jerk. I know I'll get downvoted for this, but I feel it needs to be said. If the kid turns out to not actually be his, he should not be obligated to pay child support to make up for his wife's cheating and another man's burden. It's sad how so many of you are claiming he should skip the DNA test and just provide for the kid no matter what. Like, no wonder there are so many wives who end up cheating, having kids with other men, then still expect their husbands to financially support their kids. Most of you crazies here are claiming this is what should happen and what would be the right thing for OP to do. Holy entitlement, Batman. I'm selling a family heirloom to pay for my destination wedding. My fiance, 38 female, and I, 39 male, are planning to get married this summer. We both want to have quite a lavish wedding at a winery in another state. The two of us agreed that it's the most important occasion in our lives, so we should make it as memorable as possible. We both have stable jobs and a good amount of savings, but it's not quite enough for the, admittedly ambitious, plans we have in our heads. My father passed in January, and in his will, he left me a very valuable, think 5 figures, family heirloom. I'm not much for big family traditions, so although it's a nice thing to have, I'm not massively attached to it. I have plenty of other good memories of my father, and I don't need a fancy heirloom to remember him by. My brother, who's 34, however, is a huge history nerd and is really attached to it. He was very upset by my father's decision in the will. The reason it went to me and not to him is that this has been traditionally passed down to firstborn sons. My fiance and I don't plan to have any kids, and I think he assumed, therefore, that he, or his kids, would be in line to get it if I were to pass away. After some discussion, my wife-to-be and I decided that we would like to sell this heirloom to pay for our wedding. My brother, who is also my best man, was furious when he found out and said he wanted nothing to do with the wedding anymore. He thinks my wife-to-be and I are behaving like spoiled brats. In addition, he's convinced my uncle and cousins not to come to the wedding either. With our parents having passed, this means that virtually none of my family will attend the wedding, which I'm really upset about. I think that since I legally inherited the heirloom, I can do what I want with it. I think he's just upset because I ruined his expectations of one day inheriting it. But since my uncle and cousins agree with him enough that they are not coming to the wedding, I'm not so sure I'm in the right. Am I the jerk? Technically, you can sell it because it's yours, but you're the jerk for caring more about a ridiculously lavish wedding that will break the bank than you do for your relationship with your brother or your dad's tradition. If your dad had known that you were going to sell it, he would have left it to your brother. I hope your lavish wedding is worth it to you. You're the jerk. If you sell the item, don't be surprised if it ruins your relationship with your brother forever. All for what? So you can brag about your wedding to friends while looking at pictures that don't include anyone on your side of the family? You're the jerk. Legally being able to do something doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. I doubt your dad would have given it to you if he knew you were going to sell it like it was nothing. Your brother didn't convince anyone to be mad at you or to not go. I bet he just told them, and they made those decisions mostly on their own. You probably should have thought about all of that before making such a selfish, self-centered decision. Not the jerk. Sorry, I don't get the whole family heirloom is the most important object in the entire world kind of thinking everyone has. If it's not something you're going to use or want to keep, get rid of it. Neighbor Karen gets evicted. I shared a duplex with my then-girlfriend and her son, who was 7. To fully understand all of this, I have to lay out the geography. This was a single-house duplex with both doors in the middle with a shared small front porch. The house was built on the side of a hill. Our half was on the uphill side, so underneath the other unit are both garages side by side. There's a back porch, but it has a divider, so we share a moderate amount of privacy. We got a new neighbor one day, but didn't meet her until a couple of weeks after she'd moved in. We'll call her Karen. She's mid to late 50s, skinny, and has cats. Lots of cats. We can see them in our windows. Our meeting went as such. One day we're out washing our cars in the front yard, me, the girlfriend, and her kid. The hose wouldn't reach the driveway. I also have a pair of motorcycles that I'm washing too. They will be important later. We're having a fun afternoon in the sun, playing with the hose. You know the scene, all kinds of cute and happy. This is when our new neighbor comes home. Karen drives along the driveway, parks in the garage, and walks up to the sidewalk where we are. We politely introduce ourselves and even joke that if she pulls her car up, we'd wash it too. She all but ignores us and walks straight to her door. We just shrug it off. But then she returns and goes straight vapor lock, setting the mood for the rest of the year. She starts nagging in an angry, almost screaming tone that she doesn't want us on her half of the yard. We can't be on her half, which included the sidewalk since it went through her half of the front yard. We would have to go around the back to get to our door. That's not happening. And she also wants us to stop using the garage door opener because she doesn't like the noise it makes when we do. She's upsetting my girlfriend and scaring her kid. I have to calm them both down and get them inside while Karen is still yelling with a jabbing finger. Now, I'm an easygoing guy. I can just let it roll off, but my girlfriend and her kid didn't deserve that. I got them both to calm down, and Karen needed to be taught a lesson. I go to put the cars and bikes away. It's during this that I can hear Karen through the garage ceiling on the phone with what I can only assume is our landlord. She's complaining about how rude and insufferable we are. We scare her cats. Really? And we keep running the garage door and it bothers her. She doesn't like it. We have to go. The light bulb goes off. Both of my bikes are carbureted, and for the life of me, I can't remember the last time I had them adjusted. Since car washing was cut short, maybe I can do that instead. I pull mine and the girlfriend's car out of the garage. I'm going to need the space. Then I park the bikes side by side, exhaust pipes facing into the garage. I break out the tools and start with a little one. She's a 2001 V-Star 1100 Classic. I named her Molly. Vance and Hines pipes, but they're still pretty loud. I crank Molly up and wail on that throttle while I fine-tune the throttle body, just ripping it as loud as she can, filling that garage with all of the noise. Keep that up for a few minutes, then let her rest a minute. When I finally put Molly to bed, I can hear Karen stomping on the floor and yelling at me. I yell back, "Okay, Karen, just one more to go. Only be a few minutes." Then I turn my attention to Black Betty. She's the '08 Vulcan Mean Streak Limited Edition. She's an 1800. She has pipes too, but the baffles may or may not have been drilled out. Before I can crank it up, I hear her calling what I assume is the landlord and yelling that she doesn't care about a lease. She wants us kicked out. She just won't stand for it. I didn't catch the rest of it as Betty was clearing her throat. I gave up the subterfuge of actually working on it and just held the throttle open for a moment. Then rest, then throttle, then rest. Kept that up until my own ears started ringing. Then I put the vehicles away. She was still stomping on the floor and talking on the phone. I assumed this was someone other than the landlord because she's retelling the same story again. Also, did I mention that we're friends with the landlord? Yeah, so once I'm back inside, the girlfriend is on the phone with him. We tell our side. He laughs at my prank with the bike, then asks me not to do that anymore. We finish off the evening with some TV while Karen is still screaming. Her voice is wavering as though she might be angry crying. In the coming months, it only got worse. A few days later, I'm out on my way to work. I leave at about 6 a.m. I go around to the garage, and Karen has left her car outside her garage and positioned it so that I can't get my car out. I knock on her door, and of course she doesn't answer. Bang on it a few more times, nothing. I even yell at the door. "Hey, Karen, you're blocking my car. I need to get to work." This is clearly her petty revenge for the bikes, I'm sure. Fortunately, it's a nice day, so I can just take one of my bikes to work. The bike can fit around her car. But thanks to her, I wasn't going to have time to enjoy my breakfast once I got there. That evening, I came home and her car was still there. So instead of putting it back in the garage, I leave the bike parked behind her car, just at the edge of the street. Now, I know what you're thinking, but OP, what if she backs into it? And I was kind of hoping that's where it would go. See, I've got great insurance and an even better lawyer. But no, this is how petty she is. She called the cops. The nice officer informs me that I'm blocking her car from exiting. Yeah, that was kind of the point. I inform him that she started it. I felt like a kid saying that. And honestly, we would have called the cops on her for her crap this morning, but it seemed like a waste of their time. Also, I had to get to work this morning. Cops' response? Yes, but that's why we're here. Once I explain the whole thing, Mr. Officer knocks on her door, addresses himself, and gets her to come outside. We explain the whole mess. The cop asks, "Is this true?" She admits it, but can't produce a reason for it. The cop goes off on both of us for being childish and tells us to stop blocking the driveway. Says he doesn't want to have to come back out to our residence again. Ha, yeah, okay. That weekend, we go to a different neighbor's for a few drinks. Their porch was about 30 feet or so from the original scene of the crime. We're not being loud, no music, just a handful of us grilling and drinking beers. Oh, and among the guests this evening is our landlord himself. Did I mention we were good with him? Anyways, sure enough, the nice policeman comes by. He comes to the deck, flashlight in his hand, says he got a noise complaint. Clearly it was her. But the funny part was that the cop told us that the noise complaint was placed by, wait for it, the landlord himself. Landlord steps forward and says, "That's funny, I don't remember calling to complain about myself." Once again, we explain everything to the officer. He laughs, asks us to keep it down, and then leaves. After that, Mr. Landlord goes over to her unit. Of course, she doesn't answer the door, but he speaks loud enough for her to hear, letting her know what she did wasn't cool. After that, we just tried to avoid each other. There would be minor things like UPS packages dropped off for her. We find it on our side and move it over. Later on, we'll hear through the door, "Keep your hands off my stuff," or other headaches that would make us wish that her cats would turn on her. A few weeks later, I'd gotten a promotion at work, so we threw a party. Sure enough, the cops were called again. The landlord was with us again, and he yelled over at her door, "Hey Karen, this is getting old." This next instance I can't quite take the credit for, but Karen had built this obnoxious awning to cover her side of the porch out back. She never uses the porch, so why bother? However, I clearly remember a stipulation in our lease that says we are not allowed to modify the exterior of the units at all. Maybe hers is different. Maybe I should call the landlord and find out. What's that? No? She doesn't get to make modifications either? Well, she did. So he makes her remove it. Again, because we're in good with him, he shares the tale with us, how she complained and begged and then relented. It was ear candy. Speaking of candy, come Halloween, I decorated the yard. I had heard from multiple neighbors of ours that their kids were frightened of my front yard come Halloween. I had to move some of my decorations, and that included the 15-foot ghost on the roof of the unit. I had to move it all the way over onto my side. So come Halloween night, we took her son out trick-or-treating, and literally every kid we saw, we told them to go by her place. She had the good candy and lots of it. But she's old and hard of hearing, so you'll have to bang on the door really hard. No, she won't mind. She's a sweet lady. Now I realize that this was also mean to the kids, but it was worth it to get my revenge. The grand finale. It's been about 10 months by now. The cops hadn't come back out and we hadn't fought in a while. One evening, we hear a splatter coming from the kitchen. Go in and find that a pipe has burst under the sink and it's spraying. I quickly go out to the main and I close it. But because this is a duplex, I've cut off water to her side as well. She's not home yet, so we call our buddy, the landlord. He comes and addresses the issue, small part to fix it. Needs to run to Home Depot, be right back. Meanwhile, I type up a note for Karen's door. I let her know we had a leak, had to shut off the water, but it should be fixed within an hour or two. Even thanked her for her understanding. While he's gone, we clean up the water. It was a lot. Then, before he returns, we hear the splatter again. At first, I'm a little confused. I know I turned it off, but then it clicks. I go outside, and there's Karen holding a pipe wrench. "Hey, didn't you see my note?" "Yes, but my cats need water." "Yes, but now you're flooding our unit." "I need water." My girlfriend comes out and goes off shouting, calling her names. Next door neighbors hear and they come out. It's a show now. I go get my wrench to close the main valve again, but she won't move out of the way. She's literally blocking me. Sure enough, landlord arrives at the crap show. "Hey, we left her a note. She ignored it and started the water again." "Wait, she what?" Then he turns to start going off on her. I take advantage of her distraction to go turn the water off again, but at this point, the damage is done. It's been running long enough that the carpets are soaked and the water is pouring out the front door. Meanwhile, landlord is still yelling at her. "All right, Karen, that's it. You're out of here. This is your 30 days. "BS. I've already signed next year's lease." "But I haven't yet, so it's worthless. And I'm taking your deposit to pay for their damages." She melts. But I don't have anywhere else to go." She continues to argue and cry about her deposit. She'll need that for her next apartment. She can't afford to move. She threatens small claims court to get it back. The argument rages on while I take girlfriend and son to go get packed. We can't stay here tonight. We spent the next couple of nights at a hotel while the carpets were redone. He bought the beer and ribs for the next barbecue. A few more weeks go by without so much as a peep from her. One day we come home and she's just gone. Porch, garage, all apartment cleaned out. I'm almost disappointed she didn't say goodbye. Am I the jerk for saying not everything is about your kid? I was having a small birthday party for my son. We decided on his favorite pizza place. Both my sister-in-law and daughter are vegetarian, and I asked them both what kind of pizza they wanted, and they both chose garden pizza with all veggies. We also had pepperoni and a meat lovers, garlic cheesy bread, wings, and an Italian salad. Lots of food for dinner, plus the cake and ice cream for later. My brother arrives with his new girlfriend and her son. I've never met this boy. I was an extremely busy mom with my 3 kids and 4 other cousins. The girlfriend asks where the cheese pizza is, and I told her we don't have cheese. She started in on my brother about, how could you not tell your family my kid only likes cheese pizza? I said, we have cheesy garlic bread, but the boy didn't like that either. Then I suggested he could have an extra large piece of cake. It was white with sprinkles. Her kid only liked chocolate cake. Around this time, my son and his other cousins started arguing about Fortnite and the new update, and my son decided he wanted the Airbender Battle Pass, so I'm sidetracked with that and logging the cousin into my daughter's Switch. The girlfriend asked me to order a cheese pizza for her son so he could have something to eat. I snapped back with, not everything is about your kid. I was then distracted by my daughter yelling at her cousin because she didn't want him playing her Switch with gross chicken grease hands. I went to defuse that. Afterwards, when it came to cake and ice cream, I noticed my brother, his girlfriend, and her son left. I got a long text message from my brother about how could I bully them like that and what an awful example I'm setting for my kids. I don't feel like I was out of line, and she was a rude guest, and now my brother and I aren't talking. Not the jerk. If she really cared so much for her kid, she would have bought him a cheese pizza. You don't go to a birthday party and demand things, especially when you were not invited to said party. I hope your brother will make better relationship decisions in the future for your sake. The audacity of parents to demand someone else to do something for their kid, it's not your job and it's not your issue. Am I the jerk for walking out of my birthday dinner after my sister and her boyfriend announced they were getting married? This was a couple of weeks ago, but I still think about it. I, 16 female, had my sweet 16th a couple of weeks ago. Nothing too crazy, but my parents and my extended family all came over, and we went out for a nice restaurant that my parents had booked. A lot of my family, cousins and nieces and nephews, were there, so it was a lot of people. After we ate dinner and it was time to blow out my candles, my mom insisted I open some of my presents so I don't have to carry them home. My aunts, uncles, and grandparents gave me my presents. After opening them and saying thank you, my older sister and her boyfriend gave me their present. Inside their box they gave me was a "Will you be my maid of honor?" card on top of the present. I obviously confused looked at them with a weird expression on my face. My mom came over to look in the box as well, and she loudly said, "You're getting engaged!" My sister squealed with excitement and told us all about her proposal and how they're already wedding planning. She said it was the perfect time to announce their engagement since all of our family was here. When my sister asked if I was going to say yes, I just nodded and excused myself to the bathroom. No, I didn't actually go to the bathroom. I ended up walking out and went to a nearby park. A couple hours passed by and my dad pulled up on the curb and told me to get in with him. I expected him to get mad at me, but instead he ended up taking me out for ice cream and we sat at the lake and just talked. When I got home, I saw my cake on the counter and my mom got up and started yelling at me about how I wasted money, wasted my family's time. My sister and her boyfriend came out and told me how mean I am for doing that to them. My sister ended up saying that my birthday wasn't as important as her wedding, and my mother agreed. My dad told my sister and her boyfriend to get out and ended up talking to my mom about how they could have checked with me beforehand instead of announcing it the way they did. So, am I the jerk? Info out of being nosy. Did they get you an actual birthday gift, or was your presence and their wedding the gift they gave you? You're not the jerk for being hurt, and your mom saying the wedding was more important than your birthday was mean. OP. Basically, just a crappy box with the maid of honor card and a little accessory that she wanted us to wear on her wedding day. Kinda like stuff you'd give to your bridesmaids if that makes sense. Update. My dad and I set my mom and sister down just so I could explain to her that I won't be her maid of honor as it's a big responsibility and that it should be in the hands of an adult instead of me. Although she tried to convince me further, I still said no. She starts growling at me, saying that I was ruining her wedding and that her and her fiancé went out of their way to buy me a gift, which was her proposal box to me. Unfortunately, my mom and sister started telling me how cruel it was to ruin a wedding and that it's not about me and it's about the bride. My dad brought my birthday up again and told them how my sister had ruined my birthday, and that if she didn't try to make it all about herself, we wouldn't be arguing. I don't want to go into too much detail of what went down, but basically, my sister started crying and my mom called me a brat and a disgrace for how I've officially ruined my sister's wedding. I'm now staying at my grandparents' house until things cool down at home. My dad is with my mom trying to sort her out, and my other grandparents, my mom's parents, are talking with her as my dad told them what happened. I'm not going to be maid of honor nor her bridesmaid since she's a jerk. I'm not sure if I'll even go to her wedding. I'll have to just see what my dad thinks about it. My grandparents, my dad's parents, whom I'm staying with right now, are talking to my dad about considering divorce or taking a break from my mom as she and my sister are creating a toxic environment for him and I to live in, and that after all these years, they see no reason for him to live with such a woman. I don't really know what to think about it, and I feel kind of lost, but I thought I'd update you anyways. Am I the jerk for falling out of love with my wife after she took a 7-week vacation? I, 32 male, have been married to my wife, who's 30, for 4 years, and we've been together for 8 years. She's a stay-at-home mom. We have Irish twins who are 1 and 2, which is incredibly taxing for my wife. She wanted a solo vacation break for a few weeks where she could travel different states, visit her high school and college friends, go to concerts, and do a lot of fun stuff. She asked if I would be fine with it. I asked if she could make it a couple of weeks shorter, maybe 7 weeks, because managing our 2 kids alone sounded really daunting, especially since work was also getting taxing recently. I do work remote, so at least that worked in my favor. My wife and I discussed for a couple of days, and I ultimately agreed with her that she did deserve a break because of what she had been through the past few years. And so she took her vacation. The first week managing our kids alone was extremely difficult, and I did feel like I was losing my mind, but I survived. My sister came over to help me from the second week on. She was honestly a lifesaver, and I will be eternally grateful for her. I never directly asked her to help me, but I guess I indirectly did, because when she video called me the end of the first week, I basically broke down in tears. So from the second week on, my sister stayed over at my house to help me with my kids, and a huge burden has been lifted off my shoulders. I also was really able to focus on work and meet my deadlines. To be brutally honest, I did not miss my wife at all. I was emotionally and mentally relaxed, and also had a lot of fun with my kids and my sister. I felt a sense of betrayal that my wife had actually gone through with a 7-week vacation. I slowly fell out of love with my wife. When my wife came back from her vacation, she was super refreshed and recharged, but to be honest, I was a bit indifferent. My wife tried to hook up with me the first night she came back, which I rejected because I said I wasn't feeling it. The subsequent days, I had the same level of indifference in our day-to-day life, and she probably noticed it but didn't say anything. A week later, she asked me why I was like this, and I told her I don't love her anymore. She apologized for taking the 7-week vacation and asked if there was anything she could do to fix it. I told her no. We pretty much went through the motions next couple of weeks before I finally decided that I wanted a divorce. She seemed devastated when I brought up divorce, which surprised me because I already told her I don't love her anymore. She asked if we could do couples therapy or marriage counseling first before I started looking for a divorce lawyer, and I told her I needed some time to think about that. I spent a few days thinking about it, and I'm still leaning towards a divorce because I basically don't love my wife anymore, and I don't think marriage counseling can fix it. Am I the jerk for falling out of love with my wife because she went on a 7-week vacation? Update. I woke up this morning, spent an hour reading the comments, and decided that I at least owe it to our kids to try couples therapy before considering divorce. I told my wife of my decision, and she was really happy about it. But I also told her I don't expect too much to come out of it because I just didn't love my wife anymore and wasn't sure if couples counseling could fix it. I want to clarify a couple of things. Money was not an issue. I'm lucky to be working in a high-paying, albeit stressful job. It really didn't bother me how much money my wife spent on her trip. The main issue was I was emotionally and mentally overwhelmed managing the 2 kids while I was also working full-time. My wife was also specifically against daycare for personal reasons. By the end of the first week, I had lost my sanity and basically broke down in tears when my sister video called me. My sister had enough time to come over and help me, and she really wanted to because it gave her a purpose in life. She has no plans to be in the workforce, and she's pretty much set in life because of my father's money. I did ask my father to not leave any money behind for me and give everything to my sister because I was already in the workforce and I have a good job. Did you or your kids have any contact with your wife during the 7-week vacation? OP. She called me 2 times during the entirety of her vacation. 7 weeks and only 2 calls? It sounds like she went away and was considering a divorce herself, but changed her mind. Your wife. Being a stay-at-home mom is really draining. It's too much for me. I need a 2-month break. Dumps her 2 kids under the age of 3 on her husband while he's already working full-time. Makes perfect sense. Too hard to just do one of those things, so make your husband do both. Am I the jerk for implying to my mom that I won't help her and my siblings out after I turn 18? My mom is a single mom and we struggle. I'm 17, male, and the oldest, and I have 4 younger siblings who are 14, 12, 9, and 8. We have 2 different dads. Me and my 14 and 12-year-old sisters share a dad, and he walked out on us while mom was pregnant with my 12-year-old sister. A year later, she found another guy, and he was bad news, but my mom was so desperate for a guy and overlooked a lot of red flags. She had 2 kids with him, and then he stole from my mom and left without ever looking back, and left us in a really tight position. After that, my mom would lean on me a lot, and she asked me to step up and be there for my siblings and help more around the house, and I did it because I wanted to help my mom. I hoped it would mean that she wouldn't rush into another relationship with another dude who was bad news. It was tough though, like having to help with homework and feeding my siblings, and being responsible for most of the cleaning was a lot. My mom still did stuff, it was just she had to work and couldn't be there all the time. But after a year or so of that, she started to take her frustrations out on me verbally. She'd complain about calls from my school. I struggled in school, and I still do. Or if I forgot to do something, she'd tell me I couldn't let her down and I needed to act more like an adult and do better. When I was 14, she asked me if I could start making money, and I did. I helped around the neighborhood for some extra money, and I got a part-time job a year later and gave mom the money from that. But it was like she'd take it all out on me even more. If I got home late from work or school, she'd tell me to cut it out and I needed to be more responsible. If a bill wasn't paid on time, she'd tell me to be less useless or be more useful. If I couldn't do something, she'd ask me what good I was doing. She'd tell me I wasn't a kid anymore and I needed to stop expecting the life of one out of nowhere sometimes. Eventually, I got so tired of it and it became so constant that I started saving money so I could move out ASAP. Mom doesn't know about it and I still give her the rest of what I make because it's really the only way to save without her knowing. My mom expects me to stay here and help for the next several years until my siblings are all older. I'll be out of the house as soon as I turn 18, and I won't consider staying for anyone, not even my siblings. Mom has been extra mean to me lately and saying that I should start looking for a full-time job now so that I can become a full second income. I was like, bold of you to assume I'll be getting a full-time job to help out more. And mom was then even more upset and told me that I need to get over myself and accept it. She told me I was such a jerk for implying I could abandon my siblings like that. She was so loud that my siblings heard and they were upset with me too. Not the jerk. Your mother's choices are not your problem. She continued to have kids and shouldn't be expecting you to raise them and support them. They have fathers. That's what child support is for. The men who left her are the ones the anger needs to be projected to, not you. Gradually hold back more of your money. You're right by giving some and saving some. She won't necessarily suspect you're making your escape plan. Good luck. I'm sorry you're being put through this. It's not your fault, and you are far from useless. Am I the jerk for ruining my dad's chances of winning my mom back? I'm 25, female, and my parents are getting divorced after 24 years of marriage. My mother was basically cheating on my father for months before he found out. I put cheating in quotation marks because my dad was a horrible husband, so I was actually happy she found someone else. Once my mom said she wanted to separate, my dad completely changed. He said he didn't want her to leave, begged her to stay, saying he will change. He actually got on medication for his depression, started being more affectionate, and asked for couples counseling that he said my mom agreed to do. One day I go to my parents' house and my dad says he wants my help winning my mom back. We're in the backyard and mom is in the house. I told him no because I want what's best for her and he's not it. He said that he has severe depression and saying that he's bad without acknowledging how depression can affect a person isn't right. He said he was disappointed because if the genders were reversed, I would admonish him for cheating and breaking the vow of marriage. Now this is where I might be the jerk. My dad is doing everything he can to win my mom back, so I said that while I won't help him, I wouldn't interfere in his plans and would stop talking about him with her. Me and my mom talk a lot about how crappy of a husband my dad is. At one point in the conversation, he says, in a calm tone, "I know you're not going to like this, but I'ma say it anyway. When one parent gives you gifts and takes you on trips and buys you things, of course you're going to side with them, even if they're wrong, because you don't want to lose that." This made me so angry. I have a genuine friendship with my mom, whereas even though my dad was a fantastic father, stay-at-home dad, gave us everything we ever wanted or needed, I don't necessarily enjoy being around him. I hang out with him sometimes out of obligation, but it's very forced, and I know he can tell, and he's told me this hurts him in the past. I basically went off saying, "Forget you, and how dare you," and that he had no right to question my character, and the reason I like my mom more is because he's no fun, unmedicated, he's rude and rigid, and it has absolutely nothing to do with money. I'm screaming, but up until this point, our conversation was calm, and we were almost whispering so my mom wouldn't hear. My dad keeps trying to shush me, but I don't let up. I go to my mom and tell her what he just said, and he keeps looking at me saying, "Why are you doing this to me? I can't believe you're doing this to me. We were just having a calm conversation." I say I'm leaving, and my mom gets in the car with me. Later, my dad says that after my blow-up, my mom no longer wants to go to couples therapy. Am I the jerk for blowing up and making it harder for my dad to win my mom back? Edit. I'm editing this to add that the reason I'm so involved is because both my parents talk about the other to me. My dad started first, and my mom only got involved when I asked her if she was mistreating him in any way he was claiming, but they're both wrong for this. Other important info. My dad told me my whole life that he has bipolar disorder, and that's why he was so messed up. I've sent him books and podcasts and articles and lectures for years about this disorder. I made my entire family start therapy 2 years ago, and I said that my only request for my dad is that he get medicated because he knows he has bipolar disorder. He laughed and said, "I was waiting for you to say that. I'm not even bipolar." The therapist then got a little curt with me and said I shouldn't armchair diagnose just because I was a psych major. My dad just nodded along. This is just one of his serious manipulations, but he does it to me often, and that's why our relationship is fractured. Not the jerk. It was wildly inappropriate for your dad to request your help getting back together with your mom. Their marriage is their business, not yours. Not the jerk. Your dad was trying to manipulate you and your mom, and you did the right thing calling him out. You didn't ruin his chances to do anything. He's been doing that for years and just wants a scapegoat to blame his actions on. Am I the jerk for telling my wife that my family doesn't owe us a Disney trip? My wife and I have 2 awesome kids who are 4 and 2, and my wife is a mega Disney adult. The kids have been one time, but we don't have a ton of disposable income. I do well, but we live in a high cost of living area and we have some debt. My family goes to Disney all the time. These trips are mostly planned by my aunt and paid for by my aunt or my mom. They both still pay for all of their grown kids' travel expenses. Before having kids, we were invited and my mom always paid, but since having kids, they stopped including us. My mom has said going to Disney with little kids is miserable and no one else in the group has kids, so it would be awkward. My wife gets very offended by this as she feels the kids are being treated poorly. I feel no one owes anyone a trip, and it's nice that she used to take us. I get that kids aren't for everyone, and it seems fair that a bunch of adults wouldn't want kids around. My wife recently saw pictures of my sister's 21st birthday drinking around the world at Epcot and blew up that they were there again without us. She said I need to at least tell my mom how we feel and explained that this is not how a normal grandmother should be acting. I said I wasn't going to do that as no one owes us a trip to Disney. My wife called me a coward and wouldn't hear me out. Save up and go with them when the kids are older and they'll remember it, like 8 to 6 or maybe a bit older. Honestly, if your wife plays it cool, grandma will probably invite the kids and pay when they're older. 2 and 4-year-olds are a lot to deal with, especially if the rest of the group are adults. I could see that changing when the kids are over 8 or 9, if you don't mess it up by following your wife's lead. Not the jerk. If grandma ever finds out about the wife's entitledness, she's never going again. I'd be furious at the audacity. Wifey feels left out. There's all sorts of things we have to give up when we have kids. For wifey, it's the adult trips to Disney. P.S. The really little ones at Disney are a flat-out nightmare. They don't have the stamina or patience, and they don't even understand half of it. Been there, done that. Not the jerk. My husband refuses to count childcare as a family expense, and it's frustrating. We have 2 kids who are 3 and 6. I've been a stay-at-home mom for 6 years. Truth be told, I wish to go back to work now that our oldest is in school and our youngest can be in daycare. I expressed my desire to go back to work, and my husband is against the idea. He thinks having a parent home is valuable and great for the kid. This is how he was raised, while I was raised in a family where both parents had to work. After going back and forth, my husband relented and told me he couldn't stop me, but told me all childcare and work-related expenses would come out of my salary, in which he knows that is messed up because he knows community social workers don't make much. My husband told me he would still cover everything he has, but everything related to my job or my work is on me. I told him we should split the cost equitably, and he told me flat out no. He claimed that because I wish to work, I should be the one that carries the cost. I don't know what to feel or do. Update. Appreciate the feedback. Childcare costs are on the complicated side. My husband has high standards and feels if our kid needs to be in the care of someone, it should be the best possible care. Our oldest is in private school, and he expects the same quality of care for our youngest. My starting salary will be on the low end, like $40K, and my hours would be 9 to 5, but with commute, I'll be gone for like 10 hours. We only have one family car, so we would need to get a second car because my husband probably would handle pickups and I would handle drop-offs. The places my husband likes are on the high end, like $19,000 to $24,000 a year, not counting other expenses associated with daycare. This is not counting potential car costs, increases in insurance and fuel costs, among other things. I get the math side of things, but the reality is we can afford it. My husband could cover the cost and be fine. We already agreed to put our kids in private school from the start, so he's just being a jerk about this entire situation. No, I do not need to work, but being home is not for me either. Yes, I agreed to this originally, but I was wrong. I'm not cut out to be home all the time. End of the day, I want to work, and if that means I make nothing, so be it. I get his concerns about our kids being in daycare or school for nearly 12 hours, but my mental health matters. So, if you start working, you wouldn't be able to pay childcare? Your husband has a point. You're the jerk. What point does he have? It isn't about money to him. He wants her to be at home with the youngest because that's the dynamic that was modeled in his life, and he can't imagine his family any other way. He just wants her to pay for it to punish her for having a choice he doesn't agree with. The money he makes for the family is under his absolute discretion, apparently. Pretty shameful behavior for a husband to have. Working isn't just about making money. Working is absolutely about making money, even if your reasons for wanting to make the money are deeper than that. I work to take care of my family and to provide my son a good life and a better future. In order to succeed at the level I wish to provide at, I need to make money. Having a family means being concerned about the overall needs of the family, sometimes in exclusion of your own wants. If her job isn't paying enough to cover the new cost to the family in the form of childcare, then she isn't making the decision based on what the family needs. She's doing it based on her own wants. Wrong. He's the one making the decision based on what he wants, and he's making it for her based on what he wants. He wants a nanny. She doesn't want to be a nanny. She's making the decision based on what the family needs because she is part of the family. And he needs to pay at least 50% of the childcare costs because they are equally his kids. Or he needs to quit his job and stay home with them if he feels that strongly that they need a parent at home. He does not get to dictate to her what her life will be, and she does not have to sacrifice everything she wants just because she's a woman. Blah, 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 blah. You speak, yet you say nothing worth listening to. Demand, demand, demand. You must be insufferable. Imagine being called controlling for wanting your youngest to be with their mother as much as possible during their formative years. Bro, honestly, she has absolutely nothing keeping her, except her own lack of desire to do so, from being a devoted full-time parent to her kids, and instead, she wants to go be a social worker, aka trying to fix everybody else's families, just to break even at best, because she's paying someone else to raise her kids while she does this. Not to mention, she thinks being a social worker will help her with her mental health. Has she met a social worker? Why should he cover all the bills and you work, and I'm sure you'll want more help around the house? What is your pitch to keep things equal? I may have missed that in a follow-up comment. OP, you're right, it would not be equal, but me staying home is not healthy either. Just divorce him. His alimony and child support can pay for those things. Girl, you're in a financially mistreating relationship. Run. Divorcing, breaking up a family, and throwing away a relationship you've worked hard and invested many years into over a disagreement about childcare expenses is literally the most narcissistically insane thing I've ever heard. But it's not over a disagreement of expenses. It's about him using finances to control her. No, he isn't. He's literally telling her to pay one single bill by herself because she created that expense, and he will continue to pay for all of the other bills. Did you even read the post? He's paying all of the bills. He said he will continue to do that except for childcare. Why should he also have to stay home with the kids? You're not making sense. If he's the main breadwinner, how could he stay home? You think a social worker can support a family of 4? Well, who do you agree with? OP or her husband? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for telling my brother he's weird for starting a new family at his age? My younger brother, Danny, his wife left him after their last kid moved out. They had been married for 25 years since he was 20. She was the only woman he'd ever been with. She had been part of our family for 30 years. They started dating when she was a freshman. I guess after 30 years, she was ready for something new. She said that she was 44 and that she wanted to enjoy her life before it was too late. That was 5 years ago. He's 50 now and his new wife is 30, and they're expecting their first baby. I hope it's their only kid. He's happy to have a partner again, and he would do anything to keep her happy. I was happy for him when he started dating again. It got weird when he met and married a woman who was 20 years younger than him. And now they're having a kid. They had a big gender reveal party, and it's going to be a boy. He's ecstatic. The family is happy for him. His 3 older kids are happy for him. His ex is a little upset, but that might be sour grapes, as her enjoyment of life has run into the roadblock of funding it. She got no child support and lost out on spousal support when she remarried 2 years after the divorce. Danny asked me why I was acting weird. I told him that he's too old to be doing such a dumb thing, that he's 5 years from retirement, and that he will now have a baby that is the same age as his first grandkid. That to have a kid at 50 was super strange. I guess he told his wife, and this has started a huge fight. She doesn't want me around if I'm going to be a judgmental jerk, her words. Most of my family told me I should keep those thoughts to myself. Even his daughter, whose friend he married, told me to butt out. I was only thinking of my brother and this new kid. I talked to Danny again and apologized. I told him that I was only thinking about his future. He said that he is healthy, in great shape physically and financially, and in love. He said that if I can't just be happy for him, it would be best if we didn't hang out so much in the future. So now I'm biting my tongue just so I don't get frozen out, because pretty much everyone is on his side. You're the jerk. In what world is 55 retirement? Also, in what world is 50 near the end of our lives? You're acting like he's old, decrepit, and ready for shady pines. You should absolutely keep your opinions to yourself on other people's lives. There's a reason everyone else is happy for him. They're behaving like adults. Instead of being happy another beautiful life is coming into the world, making your brother happy, you're only thinking of your opinion. Everyone's an adult here. Everyone else seems happy, prepared, and stable enough to handle the situation. The baby's coming either way. You can't stop that. You're basically fighting with the air at this point. It's good that you apologized, but it would be better for everyone and yourself if you work out your feelings about this matter quietly and on your own time. You're the jerk if you keep bringing doubt and negativity to a situation that is going to happen whether you like it or not. Not the jerk. A lot of people would feel the same as you. You only said how you felt. You didn't actively try to destroy his new marriage. He and the wife got upset, you apologized, and now you're biting your tongue. What more do they want? You can be nice to her and accept the new baby, and inside you can feel how you feel. Your feelings may change. You may come to really like her. Or she might bail once she realizes she's married to an old man and wants to live her life while she's still young, like the first wife. No way to know. Look, everyone agrees with you secretly. It's really creepy, but they know better than to question 2 adults. You just have to let people mess up their lives and hope they don't do it too badly. Not the jerk for your personal thoughts, but you are the jerk for voicing them. This kid is here and your brother's life is set. I hope he doesn't pass too young on the kiddo, but it is what it is. Am I the jerk for canceling my sister-in-law's engagement photos because her fiancé told my brother-in-law he can't stand me? So I, 29 female, am a photographer, and my sister-in-law, who's 21, let's call her Alyssa, and her fiancé, Brandon, who's 24, had asked me to take their engagement photos. I initially agreed and I was happy about it. I offered help with styling, scouted locations, and everything. Let me add here that Brandon had always seemed to just be the shy and quiet kid who kept to himself ever since he was introduced to us 2 years ago. I never had a clue he actually hates me and my husband a lot. This isn't the first time I felt a little awkward tension between Brandon and I, but Alyssa let me know that he did like me and I was just overthinking it. This was about a month ago. My brother-in-law, 28, Cole, just called to let me know about his weekend plans, asked to hang, the average conversation, but then was like, "Oh man, I gotta tell you that Brandon really let it be known that he can't stand you guys at dinner with everyone, and he really thinks you're the most annoying people in the family." Cole had also said that Brandon had mentioned that he was thankful that Cole and their dad were at least normal, unlike the rest of us who annoy the living heck out of him. So basically, the rest of us are trash. I'm highly offended by this. This is the most blindsided I've ever been by someone who is actively seeking something from me for free. I'm not just a freelance photographer, I'm a luxury wedding photographer in a large city. This is my career and also someone who is going to be in my family. Brandon had also said horrible things about my husband while he went on his rant, and I'm having a hard time not making a phone call directly to the source to confront this. I will always defend my own, immediately, but must say I'm conflicted in causing family conflict right before 2 large weddings are about to happen so soon. Part of me feels extremely guilty and sad for Alyssa because I do like her. We've never been extremely sisterly or close, but she's always been sweet, and it really hurts that she was basically right there while Brandon sits, letting everyone know he has such a problem with us just days before this engagement session. I really don't think I could show up on Sunday and play pretend after hearing that I'm so annoying and the worst to be around. Would I be the jerk for canceling this session while also letting her know that I would not have hurt feelings if they didn't want me there at all, as I'm now uncomfortable to be around them? Not the jerk. Fellow photographer here, and this made me irate to read. First, this guy feels comfortable enough to trash you in front of your own family, so don't feel bad about outing his BS. He's bold. Your sister-in-law is a jerk for asking you to do something for free for someone who actively hates you. She doesn't even ask him to tone it down, and he feels just fine talking about you. Next, you are so annoying, but not so when they can get your services for free. He'll be face-to-face with you all day while talking smack about you in his head. I can't tell you how many times I bent backwards, did things for people for free, and then be tossed aside once they got what they needed. I'm willing to bet that that's what's going to happen here. Value yourself and your craft. It goes above these relationships with crappy users. Tell sister-in-law now. Tell her that you're no longer comfortable doing this session knowing that her fiancé has badmouthed you and your husband and that she should find another photographer. Any guilting should be met with a statement, "I highly doubt you would work for free for someone who actively hates you and your partner, while the other actively covered it. I was gifting both of you this session, and you found it fit to humiliate me by making me think otherwise of the both of you while getting a free service. Don't engage any further. No is no. Anyone who gives you guilt is free to help her pay for their session with another photographer. If they uninvite you for the wedding, good. Spend your precious time and money somewhere else." Got rude guy arrested for suspended license. In the mid-2000s, my friends and I would frequent a small billiards place in a neighboring town where you could rent a table by the hour or play per game. We'd play a few games, watch whatever sports were on TV, and have casual conversations. There were no problems and no drama until about 3 months of us visiting this place. A guy shows up and takes our spot at the billiards table. No big deal. We were all chatting anyway. 20 minutes later, my friend lets him know we want to play the next game, and the jerk is super dismissive. Needless to say, we didn't get in during the next game, so I politely let him know that we wanted to play next. Another lady chimed in that she wanted the game after us. The guy blatantly ignored me and the other woman. Some more time goes by, and the guy leaves the table. We see our chance to get it. We put the quarters in, and the balls are dispensed, except the green 6 ball. The guy took it to the bathroom with him. At this point, it was ridiculous, and we notified the manager. The manager noted it was 12:30, and they were going to be calling last call and closing, so he didn't want to make a scene by kicking him out. He gets us another ball so we can play. The guy comes out of the bathroom and knows we realized what he did. He smirks and proceeds to the patio to have a cigarette, bringing along his beer and the green billiards ball. The guy comes back in and tossed the ball he was holding onto the table, hitting a few balls on the table and messing up our game. He goes up to the bar just in time for last call. One of the friends I was with suggested we follow him home and each call the highway patrol to report a suspected drunk driver. 3 of 4 of us agree. So when he leaves, we used our trusty Nextel push-to-talk phones and coordinated several calls to the police. We provided details like license plate, vehicle make, and model and color, and mentioned the car nearly hit another vehicle, was swerving between lines, and driving erratically. This was under a 15-minute plan. We had no idea where this guy lived, but suspected it was close, as he was visiting a neighboring place, so our time was limited. The one guy who didn't notify the police tailed the jerk and called us giddy when a police officer pulled between him and the other guy and turned on his lights to pull him over. The police blotter that week included an arrest of a guy who was pulled over after multiple calls of erratic driving. He wasn't arrested for DWI, but instead for driving on a suspended license. Never be a jerk to people at the pool hall. It never turns out well. Am I the jerk for refusing to split my late aunt's vintage record collection with my soon-to-be ex-wife? My soon-to-be ex-wife and I are in the midst of divorce proceedings. We live together, we have no kids, pets, or property. All of our stuff has been claimed by the rightful owner. The vintage record collection in question is the only point of contention. Now, I'll admit that my family's mistreatment of my soon-to-be ex and me being conflict avoidant and not advocating for her like I should have is one of the main factors behind our divorce. I'm definitely the jerk for that, and I take full responsibility. I know she deserves better. That's why we're no longer together. My late aunt left me her vintage record collection. My soon-to-be ex admired this collection even while my aunt, who was among one of her worst tormentors, was still alive. Soon-to-be ex has asked me many times if I would be willing to part with a few pieces from the record collection to give to her, which I'm not. I refuse to do this because it feels disrespectful to my aunt's memory. Even if her mistreatment of my wife at the time was uncalled for, why should someone she didn't like get to enjoy her belongings? But soon-to-be ex feels like having the records from the collection that she really wants settles the score once and for all. So Reddit, am I the jerk for not giving soon-to-be ex some of the records from my late aunt's vintage record collection? Not the jerk. It's a personal inheritance, not marital assets. Not the jerk. It's your inheritance from your aunt. Your soon-to-be ex has no claim, legal, ethical, moral, or otherwise, on it. I'm going against the grain to say that no jerks here. I mean, you were the jerk for not defending your wife with your family, so yay, divorce. I understand where soon-to-be ex is coming from though. I imagine it must have been very painful for her not to have her husband support her against a family that mistreated her. Yes, she may just want the records, but she probably also wants a tangible acknowledgement of the crap that she had to go through while being with you. While you may not be the jerk, not showing any generosity with these records may be a reminder for her as to why she's better off now. I know it's from your aunt and it would be disrespectful to her memory, but would it really? The collection is yours now, and at the end of the day, you get to choose what to do with it. Why not be a bit generous to someone you loved and hurt? You're the jerk. You have no legal obligation to share, but you allowed your family to mistreat her, and you decide to further enable and perpetuate that mistreatment rather than part with a few records as a way of taking ownership of your failure in that area. Be the man the next woman will want to marry, because you ain't it right now. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for not sharing the records or not? Please let us know. Am I wrong for charging people to talk to me on the phone and profiting off the male loneliness epidemic? I'm a little broke right now. I'm currently going to school part-time and working a full-time job. It's rough out here. I needed a little more income, but I didn't want to do Uber, DoorDash, etc. Safety, plus my car needs to be fixed up. And I already sell my plasma as often as I can. I came up with putting out an ad for phone conversations. I basically get a burner phone to talk to people about anything they want, and I charge for it. I don't talk about or refer to anything that's not safe for work. It's my main rule, and I strictly enforce it. You can imagine how many people I've had to block. Basically, I charge $12 per 15 minutes to talk to me. My customer base is almost entirely men. I wasn't sure if I would actually make much profit on this, but I was surprised at the amount of men willing to pay for a completely safe-for-work conversation with an unknown woman. Like I said, I will talk to them about anything they want. A lot of them just want to talk about their day, what they did at work today, or why their one coworker really made them mad at lunch. They vent to me about their wives or ex-wives. They explain their favorite TV shows and why they like them. They tell me what happened at their latest Dungeons & Dragons session. Sometimes it's really mundane, and sometimes it's honestly really sad. They've said things to me, and they've told me that they haven't told anyone before. I don't know exactly why. I think they just don't open up to anyone in their lives and find it easier to talk to a feminine figure that's a stranger. Frequently, I don't even talk much, I just listen. And if they ask, I give advice the best I can. But for a lot of it, I'm out of my depth, and I make sure that they know that. It's kind of like calling a friend to talk or vent. But yes, I get paid for my time. My roommate heard me on the phone with a guy the other day who was telling me about a promotion he was working towards. I was telling him, good job, he was working hard, and I was sure he was gonna get it, etc. When I got off the phone, my roommate asked who I was talking to, and I explained all of this to him. He got really upset at me and told me I was taking advantage of lonely, isolated men. He said I was profiting off the male loneliness epidemic. Edit. He also called it extremely unethical, which I think is ridiculous. I'm not targeting them. I'm not even exclusively advertising to men. I talk to women as well, but I don't get nearly as many calls from women as I do men. I talk to anyone who pays. I'm not heartless. I'll give discounts to really sad callers, and if they're talking to me about something sensitive and I don't have another call scheduled, I'll let it go on a little overtime without charging. But I see it as me putting out a service and they are willingly paying for it. I didn't start this because of the male loneliness epidemic, and I'm not targeting men who are affected by it. I'm not targeting anyone. Am I wrong? Edit. I'm not a therapist. I have no training, none at all. I'm flattered y'all think that I'm good at it. I'm actually studying for project management and procurement. I'm mostly an engaging soundboard. I listen to what they tell me, and I ask questions and engage with them. Like if they're telling me about Dungeons & Dragons, I'll ask about their character's backstory, or when to make a history check or something, even though I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons for years. They love to explain things they're interested in. You're helping them, not harming them. Your roommate needs to get off his high horse and realize that they're grown men who can choose how to spend their own money. Are therapists profiting off of the male loneliness epidemic too? You offer a service and they pay you. It seems totally fine to me. You sound like a therapist or a coach. You could label it as an encouragement coach. I think this is an awesome service. Not at all. Your time is valuable. Roommate is wrong on all of his points. Also, you should probably increase your rate. My husband's affair daughter was dropped off at our house 2 weeks ago. I'm 34, female. My life is falling apart, and it's all thanks to my husband. We had a perfect life. Both of us worked in jobs that we loved. We have a beautiful daughter who's 10 and a healthy son who's 5. When I was pregnant with our son, we both almost passed due to complications. So before the birth, and even afterwards, I didn't feel like hooking up with my husband. Why would I? I almost didn't make it, and my body was in pain for months afterwards, even with strong medication. I thought my husband understood. I thought that he understood my pain, but apparently he was just getting it from somewhere else. A few months ago, we were visited by the authorities. As it turns out, some woman I've never met before passed in a car accident, leaving behind her daughter, and my husband's name was on the girl's birth certificate, and he was named in the woman's will as the father. I thought it was a mistake at first, until my husband told me the truth. As it turns out, while I was suffering my pregnancy and the after effects of almost not making it, my husband would go to this woman he knew at work and would cheat on me with her. He said this as if he was doing me a favor. Well, the authorities explained to us my husband is her closest living relative that can care for her. The woman's family apparently wanted nothing to do with the poor girl. When she asked us if we wanted to take her in, I said yes. Yes, I know this might be the true cause of all my issues, but my husband pawned that poor girl off to live with her single mother for 5 years. He doesn't get to pawn her away when she needs help. She's his responsibility and now is ours. I told him I'll help take care of the necessary visits for wellness checkups and help with whatever else we have to do. All he had to do was explain everything to our kids. The fact I'm saying this now tells you what he did. Yes, nothing. We had to clean out a room and buy new furniture and even looked for some toys. Our kids go to a private school, so I picked up some more work hours in order to be able to afford her tuition. I was the one who had to tell our extended families the big change because he didn't want to. I did almost all of the heavy lifting. So color me shocked when his daughter finally joins our family 2 weeks ago and the first words out of our kids' mouths were, "Who's that?" Yes, I was the one who had to tell our kids' school, extended families, family doctors, and my workplace about my husband's affair and subsequent addition to our family. But he couldn't tell our kids because he was too ashamed to face them. So guess who was the one who had to explain that they have a sister now, as I'm trying to settle the poor girl into her new home and room. And shocker, our kids didn't take the news well as it was happening right in front of them. My daughter was screaming and crying, which caused my son and the other girl to cry. A situation that could have been avoided if my husband just did the one thing I asked of him and explained everything to them much sooner. It's been 2 weeks of her living with us and the situation has not improved. My husband has not picked up the slack that comes with having a new addition to the family, so we're struggling right now to make ends meet. I feel embarrassed bringing all 3 kids around for appointments and groceries because the little girl is very much obviously not mine, and I can tell people are judging our family. My daughter is much moodier and less happy and refuses to even acknowledge our newest addition to the family. Our son doesn't really understand what's going on, and it's causing even him to lash out. And I don't even know how to help this poor girl because I know that if I feel like my life is falling apart, she must feel even worse. I suggested family therapy for our kids, even just marriage therapy, so we can hopefully move past this and work together as a unit for all of the kids. He's refused everything, saying that he knows he'll be lectured by everyone when all he was doing was trying to help me. I just don't know how to fix this. I don't want to divorce him because I just know that will make it worse for the kids, but that's the only option my family is telling me. Meanwhile, his family is begging me to make this work and to just look past it. Tell his family that your cowardly jerk husband is avoiding everything. He thinks that if he buries his idiotic head into the dirt, everything will resolve itself. Sadly, things are being resolved because he has you. You step up to the plate and handled everything. This allowed him to pass on his responsibilities to you. Tell him choices have consequences, and now he's afraid to get blamed for his choices. If he makes the choice to avoid his duty as a father and a husband, then there will be further consequences. I asked my husband for a divorce, and now he's been the perfect husband in an attempt to get me to change my mind. My husband, 39 male, and I, 34 female, have been together for over 13 years, married for almost 9. We have 2 kids together who are under the age of 4. We've had many significant issues throughout the entirety of our relationship, which we have discussed at length in the past, and my concerns were always pacified with minimal effort for a brief time. Most of the current, main issues began about 4 years ago when I was pregnant with our son. Despite going through fertility treatments to conceive, he was fairly absent during the pregnancy, and even worse once our son was born. I was essentially a single parent, and this created a lot of resentment. This also coincided with lockdown, and my previously introverted husband became a hermit even after lockdown restrictions lifted and we both felt safe going out again. Cut to the end of 2022. Despite our continued struggles, we conceived our daughter through fertility treatments. I was hospitalized at 18 weeks and ended up on bed rest and pelvic rest for the duration of my pregnancy. Even while under these restrictions, I was still the main caregiver for our son, and he would constantly complain when he had to do any of the tasks I would typically do for our son: bath, prepare meals, etc. When I was about 7 months pregnant, my car ended up dying and I needed a new battery since I was stranded at the house without a safe car while he was at work. I continually asked him to get one that I would pay for. I just couldn't lift it in and out of a shopping cart, but he never did it. Our friend found out I needed this and he actually went out, bought the battery, and installed it for me the next day. When I gave birth, my husband was completely uninterested and even complained about how hard I squeezed his hand even though I had to give birth unmedicated. Hours after our daughter was born, instead of spending time with our new daughter, he was returning a call to the group sales associate for the local Major League Baseball team to coordinate buying tickets for the next month. In December of 2023, we had a very significant fight and I finally suggested couples counseling. He refused. When I asked why, he said that he wouldn't do it because the therapists tend to favor the woman. When I suggested we find a male therapist or one he chooses, he still refused and did not provide any other alternative to counseling or therapy. He said he wanted to fix our relationship for the kids, but I told him I would never stay together for the kids. just my belief that it makes everyone miserable. We had this same conversation every month through February of 2024, with him continually refusing counseling and actually distancing himself more from not only me, but also the kids. It finally came to a head last week when I told him I've decided on a divorce. I didn't ask for one because I knew what I wanted and that I wouldn't change my mind. The conversation went from him gaslighting me to blaming me to bargaining for more time until he finally seemed to accept the fact it was over between us. I was very clear and I told him I would have love for him as the father of my kids, but I was no longer in love with him. We even had discussed how to amicably co-parent moving forward. The next day, he came to me with these commitments he was going to make to me to be a better husband and father. He even called my mom and told her all about how he was going to change and be better. It all felt extremely manipulative and disingenuous. Since then, he's been going above and beyond to be more engaged with the kids, be more supportive of me and how can he help me, etc. The only thing is, his campaign to win me back is having the opposite effect, because now I can see that he has been capable of this all along. He was choosing not to do it. He also told his parents I asked for a divorce, and they ambushed me in our home 5 minutes after I woke up the other day, drilling me on if I loved their son and was willing to do therapy. So how can I tell my husband that this is too little too late while still maintaining some semblance of peace for the kids? When I decided to leave, same story. There was complete change into the support I had been asking for. Household help, support, a true partnership. I was exhausted of trying alone for a long time by myself to make it work, and I was angry and offended that now he was changing. I had nothing left to give. I had bankrupted myself emotionally with all of my effort. I cared about him, but I loved me more. I no longer loved him. Although I felt bad, I was done and angry that he was rallying others to support him. It felt like another offense. I was being manipulated, and so are you. I can tell you that this effort quickly changed to attacks and contention once he realized I was not coming back. I'm projecting, but put on your seatbelt and prepare yourself for the ride. I just found out my boyfriend has lunch with my grandmother every Thursday afternoon. I've known and been best friends with my now boyfriend for almost 10 years. We started dating last year. I found out a couple of days ago that he has lunch with my grandmother every Thursday afternoon. His office is near her home. He stops by, picks her up, and takes her out for lunch. This apparently started a couple of years ago when we were still just friends, and she had asked him to help her hang curtains sometime. He stopped by, did some chores for her, and they just became friends. He doesn't let her pay. He insists on her choosing the restaurant. They talk about her shows, travel, her senior group, and his family. My parents knew about this. My sister knew about this. They assumed that I knew. I asked them to pretend we never had the conversation because I don't want it to change. I think that it's really sweet of him, and I love that he's built bonds with my family. I'm really fortunate to have someone like him. Okay, so why don't I know? I'm going to give my best guess here and will stop responding to everyone asking this individually. We met while I was in college, and he was in grad school and became close friends pretty quickly. We came from the same general area and went to an out-of-state school. Our families met each other as a result of us knowing each other. Our mothers are close. My boyfriend is friends with my brothers. They sail together too. My boyfriend spent a fair amount of time in my father's workshop with my father and my brothers. They build things together for fun. I was in no way alarmed by this. This post was me sharing something positive that I appreciated. The majority of the responses to it seemed to indicate that I was successful in communicating that effectively. This is heartwarming. For what it's worth, I did not intend to trigger negativity posting about something that involves no negativity. Karen wants to put the non-father on child support. My sister, who's 20, got pregnant when she was 19, and she was with her then boyfriend at the time. Her now ex was an old friend of mine. We weren't close, but we had a few classes together in high school and college, so we talked every now and then. My parents did not have enough to support my sister and the baby. The baby was from cheating, and the other guy left her. Now, obviously, I think what she did was bad, but I don't think anything is the fault of the baby, so I decided to let her live with me until she could get on her feet again. We had an agreement where she would stay and study/work, but she would most definitely have to have her own apartment by the time she was near or around giving birth. She's 1 month along right now. We were on the couch watching a show, and my sister started up a conversation. She mentioned how she's thinking of taking her ex to court for child support since she was already a month pregnant and they were technically still together. I was confused and asked her if her ex was the father, and she said no, but admitted that she's worried about money. Now, I'm sure we all know how it goes with a guy having to pay child support for a kid that's not even his, just because they were still together when the pregnancy happened. As a guy, this made me angry, and I asked if she was serious. She said yes, and that she needs the money badly as she doesn't think she can support herself once moving out. I told her that I think what she's going to do is messed up, and that since that's the case, I don't want her living with me. She was confused and asked what the heck. I told her that if she's going to make a random guy pay for her kid, then she can live on her own. I feel personal to this, as this is seriously one of the worst things to happen to a man, in my opinion, and the fact that my sister is willing to do that makes me not want to support her. I told her I want her gone in 2 days, and that I'll pay for a week at a hotel for her, but after that, she's on her own. She says I'm taking this way too personally, and that she won't pursue the court chasing then. I told her no, as I don't know if she'll do it after moving out, so I can't trust her. Where I think I might be the jerk is telling my sister to leave if she's going to make a guy pay child support unfairly / not letting her stay even if she says she won't do it then. Where I think I might not be the jerk, I don't know if she'll press the charges after she moves out, so she could be lying. And if she's going to force a guy to start paying, then she can definitely find her own rent. I feel like she's going to do this regardless. Well, what do you think? Should OP kick out his sister or let her stay? Please let us know. Check your facts or have your career ended. The internet has evolved quite a lot over the years. Some people may remember Usenet groups. I know I do. Used to have a lot of fun reading them. Kind of similar in a way to today's Reddit in a way. No matter what the subject was, someone would have a Usenet news group for it. But unlike today's Reddit, it was strictly text. You could download images, but they would take forever to download and could often be across several different messages. Just one of the messages missing and you wouldn't get the image. Things then improved. Download speed slowly got faster, and there was IRC that came about. IRC saw the same thing. There was a chat room for anything and everything, and if there wasn't, you could clearly create it. If you were to try to watch a video over the internet back then, it would take you a couple of hours to download a music video. You get the idea. This is important for the context of the story. I was a writer on a couple of wrestling newsletters back in the mid to late 90s. We only published our newsletters online. You could have it emailed to you or go to a website to read it. Think we hosted on GeoCities or Tripod. Both wrestling newsletters were independent of each other, and I used different nicknames on each. One was more of a review and preview newsletter where we would post reviews of the most recent shows and events, talk about current feuds, and talk about what we may think will happen in the next big event. The other newsletter was a news and rumors newsletter with a few fun puzzles and competitions thrown in to keep things interesting. At the time, you had a few big-name wrestling news and rumors websites and a handful of small ones. I was a writer on one of the small ones. Sometimes we would get news and rumors from the big-name websites, giving them credit where appropriate. Sometimes we would hear things from people in the business. Everyone had their sources of information. And sometimes we would make an educated guess on possible scenarios based on current trends in the industry. It did get a bit cutthroat at times, with some newsletters claiming that they broke the news first when it had already been published in another newsletter first. And you would even have some newsletters devote all of their time to trying to rubbish the other newsletters for publishing false and misleading information. It was rumors. We did not always get it right. Through a couple of readers of my first wrestling newsletter, I learned of a huge surprise in the works for one organization, which could potentially lead to something happening at a big event coming up. I won't mention the surprise, but it involved a person from another sport. No other wrestling newsletter had reported it, so I included it as a rumor on the second wrestling newsletter. I was instantly rubbished by one of the major wrestling newsletters at the time, publishing a clearly nonsense rumor that would never happen, only for that very same newsletter to publish the exact same rumor 2 or 3 days later and claim to be the first one to publish it. This sort of stuff happened all the time. It did not bother me at all. Anyway, I happened to have a few wrestlers who actually read my first newsletter. No big names as such, but a couple of lesser-known wrestlers in the big organizations. I knew who they were, but refused to reveal their identities back then and refused to reveal them now. One of them let me know of an unknown fact from a major match a couple of years earlier. It was to do with an injury that happened during a part of the match. This fact had never been published anywhere else at the time. I mentioned that I wrote for another wrestling newsletter that dealt with news and rumors and asked if I could repeat the information. The wrestler said sure, but not to credit him, so I go ahead and publish the rumor. Straight away, I had another of the smaller wrestling newsletters say that it was nonsense. They said that it was impossible for the match to have continued had the injury happened. Then they started a smear campaign on the second newsletter. I was getting spam emails constantly, virus attempts originating from the competition. The competition even went so far as to claim that they had the full story of my wife of 10 years working the streets. Don't ask. They were trying to find anything to smear me with. There was more sinister and disgusting stuff, but I won't write it here. Why it got so personal, I don't know. But the funny thing was that at the time, I was a 22-year-old single university student, and if I had a wife of 10 years who was working the streets, I would have had to have married her when I was 12. But his smear campaign was working. Our readership dropped by nearly 50%. It was time to get some revenge, although I had no idea just how far the revenge would end up reaching. Firstly, I approached one of the bigger wrestling newsletters. They would often run ads at the bottom or rear of their newsletter for affiliated newsletters. I organized a new affiliation with them, removing an affiliation they had with the competition. Small potatoes. I started promoting the second newsletter heavily on Usenet and some of the wrestling groups, which ultimately led to an increase in our email subscription base, greater than what it was before his smear campaign. This negated any effect that his smear campaign had, but I was hungry for more. I wanted to shove it where the sun don't shine, so I contacted those wrestlers who read my first newsletter. I explained the situation to them, and they were happy to help out. It took a couple of weeks, but eventually I was able to post a link to a 15-second video, posted on a GeoCities webpage, as well as on a wrestling Usenet group, where the wrestler at the center of the injury rumor not only confirmed it, but gave a shout out to my second newsletter. While it validated me and my information, it still didn't shut the other guy up. Finally, a break. While the guy used an alias for his newsletter, he did actually mention his name a couple of times and where in the US he attended university. Using this information, I was able to get a friend in the US to do some searching for me, attended that very same university, and discovered that the guy had actually completed a journalism degree several years earlier. Further research indicated that he was now working as a reporter for a regional newspaper in the US. His wrestling newsletter might just be a hobby. So I decided to send all of the information I had, his smear campaign, etc., to the newspaper office. I didn't know what, if anything, it would do, but it was worth a shot. About a month later, I got an email back from the newspaper thanking me for the information. They discovered that he was using the newspaper's system to run the wrestling newsletter, which was against their policy, so they fired him. And because the newspaper was part of a chain of regional newspapers across the US, he was going to struggle to find another journalism job. The newsletter got shut down as well because without the newspaper system to run it, the guy had no way of continuing with the newsletter. Side note, I ended up finishing with my newsletter not long after anyway. The first newsletter, as I was just a writer for it, I finished up with it when the owner of the newsletter decided to close it down. He didn't have the time to devote to it due to work commitments. The second one, I started off as just a writer/contributor, then took over their competitions, then eventually over the whole newsletter. Original owner didn't want to do it anymore. But in the end, I was finishing up at university. I had to move on with my career, so I closed it down. Hair too long for the dress code? We'll see about that. A few years ago, I was a department manager for a large conference center. I ran the top performing department as determined by guest feedback surveys for a large margin. Like no other department out of 1,200 employees was even close. And my dress style was always nice and professional. Dress code didn't say we needed to have on button-up shirts and ties, but I did anyway because I looked great and professional, and I met with the leaders of large conferences multiple times per day. I dressed to impress. They were my clients, and whatever their problem was, I was going to fix it. My demeanor and professional attire did great things to alleviate their concerns. My bosses got on a dress code kick for some reason. They made me and my small department, 6 people total, start wearing lame, colorful, standardized shirts with a logo on the front. The rationale was that the clients should be able to identify me as a staff member. I get the logic, but that was what my lanyard and name badge were for. Plus, the bright/colorful dress code shirt was actually detrimental to my work, as I often worked backstage as a tech during band performances. Industry standard color for techs is black, but they wanted me to wear bright yellow. Okay. I tell them my concerns for my shirt's bright colors being a distraction for the audience as I do work backstage. My bosses don't care. They made up a new dress code and want me to follow it. Fine. So I wear the shirt. But then I also wear a nice sweater vest, or just a vest on top of it. Still got my tie on. I like ties. But to make it explicitly clear I'm staff, I get my own hat made, at my own expense too, that shows the company's name on it. Again, my badge and lanyard are always visible, But now I can do my backstage work without being a distraction to the audience that might glimpse my movement as I go about doing scene changes, etc. But then my bosses tell me that the company's logo has to be visible on my shirt, and I therefore can't wear a vest. So then I get the company's logo embroidered on my shirt sleeve, also at personal expense. Problem solved, right? I'm wearing the shirt they gave me and the company's logo is visible. At this point, my boss is upset with me and is trying to write me up for any possible infringement of company policies. I know how to read a room, and I immediately start going to the HR director to approve of my new and evolving malicious compliances of this ever-changing dress code policy. My boss says that we can't wear hats. Okay, fine. My hair is visible for all to see, and I quickly become aware of the next thing my boss is going to tell me to fix: my hair. They're going to cite some vague language in the employee handbook about hair length, so I go to the HR director preemptively and ask for clarification for hair length. After a 10-minute conversation, we both agree that I am perfectly fine with nothing to worry about. My hair is nice, in a bun, and looks good. It's well kept and stylish, and my specific clientele actually really like it because they're mostly hipsters anyway. But my bosses don't see it that way. They say that my hair is too long and it needs to be cut. I ask them how long is too long. I am, after all, a rule follower and will obey the rules. One of my bosses, a lady with long hair that is actually against dress code because it's not put up into a bun, says that my hair should be less than shoulder length. My hair was in a man bun. I ask her if that policy extends to ladies as well. She says no, obviously, that this dress code only applies to men. Apologetically and feigning ignorance, I ask her to show me where it says that in the employee handbook. She shows me the section where it says that if the hair is longer than shoulder length, regardless of gender, it should be kept in a bun. I tell her that my hair is in a bun as opposed to hers. Oh man, now it's getting real. I just called them out. They're not happy. My other boss, a guy with super short hair, less than 1/4 of an inch long, tells me that as a guy, my hair shouldn't touch my shirt's collar. He tells me that a few stray hairs of mine are touching my collar. I pull out my phone and take a picture of him. I show him that even his 1/4 inch hairs are touching the collar. His head was leaned back and his hair was touching his collar. I ask them again to clarify how long is too long, because his 1/4 inch hair is too long for their standards. Side note, I love my thick hair. Someone telling me to cut it arbitrarily speaks fighting words. Then they tell me that I just need to do what I'm told because it's company policy, and if I don't do it, they'll get HR involved. I tell them I already got HR involved, and the HR director explicitly told me that my hair was perfectly fine. But these two bosses of mine just wouldn't let it go. They had to go after my hair. They told me that since I'm a manager and meet with group leaders, I have to go above and beyond what the dress code says, and I have to act professional in order for us to receive good guest feedback regarding professionalism. I tell them that me and my department are already the most professional and highest rated department according to guest feedback surveys. I take the printout of the survey results out from my bag because I anticipated my lack of professionalism was going to be questioned and had it printed in advance, and I show them the survey. They read it, toss the paper aside, and tell me to cut my hair or be written up. Fine. The next day, I come into work with a shaved head. They never told me to cut my hair again because I look far worse with no hair. Coincidentally, they also let me wear my hat again, but only because my shaved head was a sore sight. As a point of interest, when I resigned from my position a year later, I submitted to HR my 80-point paper why my two bosses caused me to leave the organization, how they stifled me and my department from doing legitimately good and quality work, and how I felt that under their leadership, I was incapable of ever winning. A month after I left, I heard from a friend and previous coworker who was still at the company that my direct boss was forced to retire and my other boss was fired. My friend told me that they were privy to a conversation held between the CEO and my female boss, the one who was fired, and my friend overheard the CEO say, "Your time at this company is over, and I want you to know that when you're gone, your position will not be filled. Consider you and your position eliminated." Lastly, I haven't cut my hair since I left, apart from occasional trims. It's now almost 3 feet long, and I plan on giving my gorgeous lion's mane away to some charity that deals with making wigs for kids. Well, what do you think? Should dress codes be allowed to keep men from having long hair? Please let us know. Maybe the people who make these rules are just mad because they're bald. Am I the jerk for taking away and returning thousands of dollars given to my teenage kids? My husband and I are really disagreeing on this, and I would really like a third opinion. My parents are very wealthy, Since I was a kid, they would use money and material possessions to control and manipulate my siblings and me. An example would be when I went to college. They paid for it and all of my expenses. They used that as a tool to completely control my life. Anything I did that they didn't approve of, they would empty my account. I went completely no contact with them 15 years ago. My husband knows this and knows that they are not allowed any access into my life. I have 2 teenagers, one 15 and one 14. Both my kids have bank accounts that are in my name. Last weekend, I noticed my eldest had a game in their room that I knew to be about $80 that I didn't buy them. I asked them about it, and they claimed a friend had got it for them. My eldest is a terrible liar, and I knew immediately something suspicious was happening. Long story short, I got the truth out of my kids. My parents had gotten in contact with my kids through my brother. They sent about $10,000 in cash to my brother, which he gave to my kids, $5,000 each. I assume during one of these times he babysat them. He put them on the phone with my parents, and they told my kids who they were and lied to them about why they never met. They claimed to love them, despite never meeting, and wanted to support them. The arrangement was that my parents would send $1,000 every month to the kids as long as they kept it a secret from me. They made grandiose claims about taking them on vacations as well. My brother is dead to me now. I have completely cut him from my life. Where I am being told I'm being unreasonable is when it comes to the money. Each kid had accumulated about $8,000. My husband thought that we should just keep it and put it away for the kids. I said no and sent the money to my parents' address with a strongly worded letter. Obviously, my kids are super upset, which I will deal with. I am surprised though that my husband isn't supporting me. My reasoning is that if my kids keep the money, my parents will find a way to use it against them. They are master manipulators. I have no doubt that they had some grand scheme to try to turn my kids against me. My husband disagrees and thinks that I'm being unfair. We are well enough off financially to pay for our kids' education and support them if need be, so I don't really see the point. Am I being the jerk for returning the money? Well, what do you think? Should OP let her kids keep the money or not? Please let us know. She could always just send it to me. I wouldn't mind having $10,000. I'm not your caterer. I'm your colleague. This happened in the first few months of my career starting right out of college. I was a 21-year-old woman at the time, doing my hardest as a new engineer in a company that has about 30% of its workforce within 5 years of retirement eligibility. I was being trained on a new materials management/procurement software that the company was rolling out. This was an all-morning training in our computer lab, so the office catered in a light breakfast available in the room next door to the lab. I was early to the training and getting myself set up at a desk when I headed in to get some tea and a muffin. Hugh, the old guy I've never met before. We say good morning, and he makes some comments to me about not liking the lid style of the coffee cups. They're the flat ones where you pull the tab back instead of the raised ones with a lip. I politely agree while I'm pouring water and making tea. A few other people come in, and at this point I've got my plate fixed up and I'm walking out of the room when, "Excuse me." I turn around to see what's going on when I see the older man looking right at me. "Do you know which one of these is decaf?" I'm confused. "No, I don't drink coffee actually. Sorry." He straightens up and looks at me, frustrated. "Well, how am I supposed to know?" Everyone else at the refreshment table is now looking at me, confused. I'm halfway out the door, and there are like 5 other people who he can ask. "Aren't you from the caterer?" And I suddenly realize that this man thinks I'm a college student sent here to help, because I couldn't possibly look like the kind of person who could need to know the same software as him. I'll admit, I was dressed in a very college-quality business casual, but it was a cardigan and black slacks. I definitely wasn't in the t-shirt and jeans of a catering employee. Cue all of my insecurity at being a young female in a senior male-dominated profession and company. I respond, "No, I'm actually here for the same training as you." He looks at me, somewhat surprised. "Oh," he said. No apology, no laughter, no introduction, nothing. I left the room, settled into my training, and never saw that man again in the 8 years I built my career there. Woman assumes I was helping a customer, but I was helping my mom. I was making some homemade sheet candy, and before I started cooking, I noticed that I was out of cooking spray. So my mom and I head for the nearest grocery store. The employees at the store, which I worked at for a short time, wear a blue apron with the store name on the front. I was wearing a black apron covered in powdered sugar from the last batch I had made a couple of weeks prior. I had forgotten to take the apron off before heading out. While we were there, we decided to pick up a few extra things instead of just the cooking spray. My mom can't bend over due to having had a knee replacement surgery a while back, so I was helping her out by grabbing items off the lower shelf. My mom shuffled forwards a bit when I hear it. Ahem. I turned around and faced a woman with a typical Karen haircut. I couldn't really see much of her face, but her mask definitely screamed to me, "I demand attention," with how brightly colored it was. But it was the eyes. She was glaring at me for some reason, and I couldn't figure out quite why. "Oh, sorry, am I in your way?" This has not been the first time I've been confronted by someone for being in the way while looking for something or waiting for my mom to move forward. "You should be helping other customers." Uh-oh. I knew what this was the second she said that. There was no way she could recognize me as a former employee since I wasn't wearing my work wig and was only wearing a black bandana. "I don't work here, ma'am." I stood up from my crouched position and straightened my apron since it had gotten up on my back a bit. "Yes, you do. You're wearing an apron and helping that jerk get her groceries." "That woman is my mother, and I don't work here. Maybe instead of being what you called my mom, you should think before you speak." I went to turn and walk away from her when she screeched at me. "Get me your manager." "You want me to get you my manager?" "Okay." I have a bit of a temper when people insult my family, but insulting my mom directly had majorly put me in a bad mood. What you may not know is that I'm the kind of person who becomes quite the smarty when confronted angrily. So I went and got my manager, my mother. "Here's your manager. This woman has managed me for 24 years. Why don't you tell her what your complaint is?" My mom looked so confused, but the Karen just huffed and stormed out of the aisle. I thought that would be the end of it. We continued shopping when that same bright beacon of a mask came wheeling around the corner with a real employee in tow. "That's her. That's the employee that refused to help me." Me. "Mom, you need my help in here?" "Nope, I'm good. Meet you back at the car." The Karen stomped over to me, pointing and screeching at me and the employee. She was demanding I be fired for refusing to help her and instead favoring another customer. I just stared at her, scratched my nose through my mask, and waited for her to stop shrieking before I pointed at my apron. "Black, not blue, lady. I don't work here. I was shopping with my mom. Leave me alone." The employee looked so confused, only managing out a weak, "She doesn't work here." The second that Karen started yelling at the employee, I just booked it out of there. I feel bad for leaving the guy with that crazy lady, but I wasn't about to deal with her crap or risk completely snapping and doing something crazy after she had insulted my mother. I must have a retail face or something, or rather retail eyes, with all of us having to wear masks. But really, lady? Insulting a customer and demanding a person wearing a sugar-covered apron to help you? I ain't no sugary sweet maid that bends to your every will. Speaking of sugary sweets, what's your favorite kind of candy of all time? Please let us know. Take 5 for the win, bruh. Give me an undeserving bad grade on a project? Enjoy my final exam. I was in grade 11, and I was taking a class that had basic web design. At the beginning of the year, things were fine, until about midway, where a teacher seemed to be going through some personal issues and would mark us even more harshly than before. I was usually getting straight 85s to 90s, and now I'm barely getting 60s. I even asked my fellow classmates if they thought I deserved that grade, and no one agreed. So we're getting close to summer, and our final exam was coming up, worth 30% of our final grade. And the project we had to do was to create a company and sell a board game. He handed out his checklist of things that are needed and added at the bottom that if we can play the game in class with others, he would give us extra points. Me being a teenager at the time decided it's time for some malicious compliance. I spent 2 weeks meticulously putting this website together. I think we were using Adobe Dreamweaver at the time. I had a big flashy intro that I made in Flash and even had the website in different languages. Wasn't asked, but I added it for flair. The game I decided to make for this was very unique. I called it Are You Bored Yet? Inside this game was a single board with 10 spaces, 2 sorry tokens, and a single dice. The object of this game was if you can roll the same number 10 times in a row, you get a point, and the first one to 10 points wins. However, if you can't, you lose a point and go back down to the bottom. So around this time I got sick and I had to miss about 2 to 3 weeks of school. This means I had to miss the presentation date. However, I had gotten a doctor's note and a note from the hospital stating that I had to miss due to illness. All my other classes allowed me to make up the exams and I had to give my presentation to the teacher. So I stand up in front of the empty class and I start giving my presentation and all things are going well. At the end of it, he says, "Thank you for your time," and starts to walk me out. I say, "Hold on, teacher. According to your rules, we must play a game if I want extra marks." You could see the "oh crap" look in his eyes. Note that the teacher put that in there because he wanted it to be played with other students, but since there were no other students left in the class, he was forced to play it with me. I sat there for a good 45 minutes. He didn't want to stop, and I wasn't going to stop him, playing this game, none of us being able to score a point. Frustrated, he turns to me and says, "I'll give you bonus marks if you just say we completed the game." I agreed and went my way. About 2 weeks later, we go back in to get our final marks, and I see how he did. To my shock and smile, I had received a 105 on the exam. I like to believe he stopped being so grouchy with his markings afterwards. I'm the comedian, but you're the joke. I do stand-up comedy sometimes. I was performing at a bar/restaurant deal and was sitting in the back taking care of some emails waiting for my set time. I went to the bar to get a drink, had a chat with the bartender for a few minutes, then got the signal I had 5 minutes till show, so went back. When I got to the back room, I realized I had left my phone on the bar, so ran out again to collect it. Enter Karen. Not her real name, of course. At a table just left of dead center facing the stage, right by the back entrance I'd been popping in and out of all night, and a big group of 6 or 7 people. But even in my brief forays out, I could hear her shrill voice dominating their conversation. I guess here's as good a place as any to mention I was wearing a yellow sweatshirt and cargo shorts. The servers wear all black. Karen. Sir, excuse me, sir. Me. What's up? Can you check on our food, please? All we ordered was some wings, and it's been like half an hour already. Me. Your server can help you with that. I'm not a waiter. What? Oh, dish boy, line cook, whatever. You work here, so just when you go back there, ask about my food. Me. Oh no, you see, No, I get it. You aren't a waiter, but do you work here? Kind of. Let me explain. Someone in her party. I don't think he's a waiter. Shut it, okay? I've got this. You work here. You can bring me my food. Just a quick little, trot, 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 carry, boom, done. Me. I can't do that. Karen. Ungodly shriek. Why not? Others in her party. Karen, oh my gosh, quiet down. They tried to wave me away. I was weighing in my mind whether walking away had the higher chance of getting me fired from future gigs there, or staying and getting into it with her did. I was just going down the stay and get into it with her track when the MC gets up there and goes, "Now a special treat for our patrons tonight, local comedian." So I just stopped myself, lock eyes with Karen, walk backwards to the stage, unflinching. I grab the microphone. Her table is cracking up, realizing what's happened, and I say, "Well, I'd hoped to do a show for you tonight, folks, but looks like that won't be possible. Apparently, I've been reassigned." I start riffing about people who think you work there when you don't and accuse you of lying and how absurd a concept that is. But then it's too perfect. The waitress is coming out with wings and headed straight for her table. I know the waitress. I've performed here before. So I transition and I'm just like, "You caught me, lady. Can't hide anymore." And I grab the wings from the waitress and I'm like, "Oh, Donna, I see you trying to hone in on my section. Can't you see this is my table?" And all throughout the rest of the bit, I would go over and fill their water glasses, bust their plates. Whenever I hit a dry spot, I was like, "All right, hold on. Gotta check in with my customers. Can I interest you in any dessert? How we doing over here? Speak into the mic, please." Karen hated it, but the others at her table were dying laughing and would even sometimes flag me down for water or appetizers. The set ends and Karen goes to file a complaint. Her friends or coworkers, whoever, try to stop her from doing so, and some leave the venue because of her. A couple stay back to try and defend me, and I told them not to worry because the manager and I were cool. But they got to see for themselves. The manager is an old school Armenian guy, and he has no tolerance for this BS. This particular venue was a biker bar before the area got gentrified, so he's used to dealing with way rowdier customers than Karen. So she's going off about mistreatment at the hands of his employees and how I'm probably not licensed to be a food server and that she wanted something done. The manager plays dumb just to see her get worked up and goes, "Who? This guy?" Even though the entire floor saw me give her a hard time. Manager: "He doesn't work for me." Karen: "What the heck are you talking about?" Manager: "It's 11:30 p.m. He worked for me from 10 p.m. till 11 p.m. That's what I paid him for as a freelancer. That's over. Now he's just some guy. Karen. Well, when he was working for you, he was rude and abstinent. Me. What, on stage? Of course I was abstinent. It's not that kind of show. Karen. You know what I mean. See, he's making fun of how I talk. Manager. He's a comedian. That's what I paid for. Karen. I was a customer treated poorly in your establishment. He was acting as a server here when he served me, and I want a refund on my meal. Or at the very least, turning dramatically to me, Gollum voice. An apology. Me. All right, I might have been a little rude towards the end there, but in my defense, she didn't tip. Manager. Is that true? Did you not tip? Karen. Why would I have tipped the comedian? Manager. I thought you said he was acting as a server. Karen was a little tipsy at this point, so somehow drunk logic convinced her smashing a glass would get her point across. All it did was get the manager to have her bounced. Her remaining friends apologized to the manager and said they barely knew her, and they hoped this wouldn't mean they couldn't come in there anymore without her, and he was super nice about it. I told them I hoped I hadn't put a damper on their night, and they said they can't wait to tell everyone else about Karen's outburst. So I don't have a career as a waiter in my future. Kudos to all you service workers who put up with these insufferable people day in and day out. Am I the jerk for wanting my girlfriend to share rent with me when she moves in? I, 31, male, met my girlfriend, Sarah, 26, female, a little over a year ago. She's currently unemployed and has moved back with her parents after she and her ex-fiance broke up. I met her parents several times, although I thought it was a little early, but they seemed okay-ish. Last week, she told me that her parents have been wondering when I will make a move, meaning that I proposed to her. She said that she wanted to move in with me in my apartment. Now this may sound rude, but I had to ask her if she had found a job, but she said no, and has no intention to work anytime soon. I told her that moving in with me would mean more expenses, higher bills, besides the rent that apparently I'm gonna have to handle all by myself. She took this as an offense and tried to argue that I don't value her and care more about the money. I explained that there was nothing wrong with her finding a job to share the rent with me since we were planning on getting engaged. She got upset and had her parents call me to invite me to their house for a talk. Her dad did the talking. He laid out all the reasons why I should not make a condition to let her move in with me. A. I'm a pediatrician. I make a ton of money. B. Said that since I need help paying the rent, that I should not have rented a furnished apartment, which is more expensive, and not rent an apartment in an expensive area, which happens to be close to my workplace. And C. That since she's my soon-to-be wife, then there should be no difference if she pays or not. I was in shock. I didn't know what to say. I told him that this was not acceptable and that getting married means both sides help out, and that I wasn't willing to move to a cheaper apartment because that's a lot of time and effort. We argued back and forth. She went inside her room and refused to speak to me. Then her dad lashed out at me and said that I was being rude to them and inconsiderate, started bringing up the amount of money I make and how I was the one to complicate things. I left and she's been calling, saying that if I really love her, I should just agree with her dad. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. He's lucky he's getting these signs early on. You better run, boy, or you're gonna be dealing with these folks for a long time. Entitled mother-in-law demands we pay for my brother-in-law's lifestyle. Cast. We've got entitled mother-in-law. We've got entitled sister-in-law, brother-in-law's wife. We've got entitled brother-in-law. We've got my husband and me. Background. My husband comes from a poor background, as he could not attend college because he had to take up a job in our country's defense forces the moment he was 18. I, on the other hand, come from a middle-class family, as in I could attend college and even have a master's degree, but nothing super fancy. We were married, arranged marriage, when I was 24 and he was 25. Before our marriage, all my husband's salary went directly to his family. That means 7 years of income, people, a major part of which actually went to his brother-in-law, as he was too special to find a job, also could not keep one for longer than a year. When I came to my husband's house, my brother-in-law already had 4 kids with his wife pregnant with the 5th. My brother-in-law's credit was a mess, and he had taken multiple loans for funding his drinking holier-than-thou lifestyle, and my husband was a complete pushover with no spine of his own to speak up for himself. It took me 2 years and a toddler, blessed with a baby boy, to force him to grow a spine, as now he had a family of his own and needed to care for it. I had to make him understand that he can no longer send 90% of our income to his brother and force us on the brink of bankruptcy, as his brother cannot afford his own lifestyle. Slowly and slowly, my husband stopped sending them any money as his parents had enough income to maintain themselves, and it was high time for his brother to get off his lazy butt and do something. Main story. Now this is the main event that took place about 5 years ago, when my husband was 30, that forced us to go no contact with my in-laws and a major part of my husband's family. My brother-in-law now had 5 kids, blessed with all girls, was on the brink of bankruptcy, and had already used a major part of the inheritance that he was going to be passed down from his parents. This interaction took place on my first 2 nieces' wedding. They had a joint wedding and reception as brother-in-law didn't have the money for 2 separate weddings. Entitled mom to my husband. You should start helping your brother again, as he's having a lot of troubles with funds lately. Husband. We're in a pretty tight spot ourselves, Mom, especially with Ellen. Me. Pregnant with a 2nd child. Entitled sister-in-law.
Well then, you should help your brother even more, as you know what it feels like to be with a pregnant woman. After all, we are also expecting.
Me. What? You're pregnant again? My actual words. Entitled mother-in-law. What do you mean, daughter-in-law? Aren't you happy? It can actually be a boy this time. Not everyone is as lucky as you who gets a boy on the first chance. Me, flabbergasted. What the heck are you talking about? I won't treat a daughter any differently than a son. Entitled sister-in-law.
Well, you can say that since you already have a son.
Husband. I don't care about entitled brother-in-law and entitled sister's lifestyle choices, and I can't share any more money with them, as I have my own family now, and we need to save to buy a house, start our son's college fund, etc. Entitled mother-in-law. You don't have any right to speak about your brother like that. He is trying to improve. A lie. He also has responsibilities. Me, laughing. Right, as if he knows what responsibilities are. Entitled sister-in-law.
You jerk! You dare speak about my husband like that?
Everyone was now looking at us. She gets into my face and actually takes a swing at me. Husband stopping her midair. You dare! She is pregnant, and even if she was not, how could you think that you could do this to her? Me, shocked plus angry. We're leaving now. I don't think we're welcome in this wedding anymore. Husband follows me without speaking anything else. We got many vile messages and even threats from his side of the family on how we spoiled our niece's marriage and how family always comes first. Fortunately, we had never given my in-laws our address, and even if they could get it somehow, no one would have the money for the plane ticket, as we live at the geographically opposite corner of the country at that time. Also, we've shifted twice since then and have blocked out most of his side of the family, leaving out some of his sensible cousins and uncles and aunts, etc., and informed everyone on my side of the family, plus our friends, to maintain absolutely no contact with them. Edit. Here are the answers to a lot of the common questions asked. 1. Yes, I'm from Asia. 2. The 6th kid was actually a boy. Thank God, or I don't know until how long they would have continued. 3. Also, thanks to all who are praising my English. I love a self-esteem boost. 4. I'm not child-free, but I am actually supporting that kind of lifestyle as a choice if it makes you happy. I love my kids and will do anything for them, but I also like the idea of having totally no responsibilities of another human being upon yourself, so I support it. Edit. Many people are asking about why there are some posts deleted or mentioning that I am a teenager, so here's the explanation. I get where you're coming from, so let me tell you that this is my son's account. I thought you guys would be able to tell that by the name. I'm not tech savvy enough to have my own account, neither am I really that much into media. He lets me use it to make posts and even read through some of my favorite subreddits, as he has also made a different personal account. I know it may sound confusing and weird, but that's it. He also uses this account, so you can even find other posts stating that he's a teenager, etc. He's the one who's actually into writing those 2-sentence horror stories. He's the one who actually told me about the Karen and entitled family subreddits and stories, so I thought I should share my experience too. He's actually really happy due to the extra karma and awards that this post gained, as he himself has never earned so many likes and upvotes, so I think that should solve the confusion. Thanks again for all of the support and awards. You are all amazing people. Have you ever had in-laws that you just couldn't stand? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know. My in-laws never liked me, and I still haven't found out why. Entitled brother tried to trick me into letting him live with me. This happened around Christmas. My grandmother had passed away the previous year, and my brother had been living with her. However, after being told before my grandmother passed that the house would be sold, he refused to move out, saying, "I'm working on it." Not sure what he was working on, but it didn't look like anything whenever we came by to give him food. He has a job, yet never seemed to buy food. He always calls me up demanding some of mine or demands it from my mother. Well, Christmas I was terribly ill. I had called out of work and wrote on Facebook that I didn't want to be bothered. The doctor said it was just a cold, but it was horrible. Whenever I breathed, I wheezed and rattled. I felt like I was in no fit state to do anything. However, my ever-loving family didn't accept sickness as a reason to skip Christmas, so my brother came and complained as he dragged me out to take me to my mother's. In the car, he smoked and said I was faking my sickness as I kept having coughing fits. He went on and on about how Mom was selling the house right from underneath him, how the house belonged to him, how Mom gave away Grandma's car to our sister when it was his, and so forth. I was trying to stay awake, but I wasn't well, and him telling me all of these things that belonged to him that weren't his was boring me. We got to my mom's, and it was a nice time. Well, I think it was. I fell asleep and was woken up for dinner. My brother was mad that he got yelled at for smoking near a sick person. Dinner was the eye-opener.
It's so nice that you're allowing your brother to live with you. I had no idea you were so close,
said my mother. What? No, I started. Have some more water. You sound terrible, said my brother, forcing water onto me.
I was worried he had no place to stay, but you are helping him, my mom went on.
Yes, she is, like a good big sister. She invited me to come take care of her, you know, 'cause she's special and all,
said my brother. No, I didn't. He's not, I tried to say, but ended up in a coughing fit.
She didn't invite you to stay?
Asked my mom.
She did,
cried my brother before he leaned over and whispered to me.
Don't be a wuss.
I don't even want to write what he called me here. I'm not able to have anyone else on my lease or to live with me, I choked out after my coughing fit.
We'll lie,
said my brother cheerfully. I glared at him. How will I lie? I am special, and special people can't lie. I snapped as best as I could at him. Well, that ended dinner. Before my brother was supposed to take me home, my mom offered, but my brother insisted he would. I had learned from my sisters, other brother, father, and mother that my brother had been going around telling everyone that he was moving in with me. He had told them that I was going to get a bigger place and he wouldn't even have to pay rent. I couldn't believe it. He drove me home. I was mad, but he was going on about how homeless he was when we were going back. So stupidly, after he brought in the gifts from others to me, I allowed him to stay the night. I figured, it's Christmas. It's a nice thing to do after all. This was a terrible idea. He smoked, so my place smelt like a smoker's place. He blasted the TV even after I told him not to.
The neighbors won't mind,
he said. He raided my kitchen to the point I needed to go food shopping right away, and he wouldn't leave until I grabbed the phone and told him I was going to call the cops and then Mom. After his visit, he kept telling people he was going to live with me. I took longer to recover from the cold, and while cleaning up the mess he left, I found suit marks and even a needle with strange stuff in it mixed in with my cat toys. Mind you, I found that needle by the fact I almost got it in my foot. My home looked like a rock star trashed it. My friends came over and helped me finish cleaning. As the new year hit, my mom thanked me for helping my brother, and I told her, I am not. I love him. For God's sake, I do love him, but he is not welcome to my home ever again. I'm so mad at him, I don't want to see him. But he's homeless. His fault. He had over a year to find a place. I found one in less than 30 days when you guys kicked me out of your house.
But he is your brother,
whom partied like a rock star in my apartment and smoked around someone who can't breathe. Yeah, not having it. Also, there was a needle there. You're diabetic. Is it yours?
Nope, I'll ask your brother.
Thought that was the end of it. But a few days after that, my friend and I were at my place when my brother stopped in to check on me. As I was now mostly recovered, he explained that the needle I had found was slang for something that he had been using injecting into his warts to get rid of them, and he demanded it back. I told him I threw it out. He offered to take out my trash, which I repeatedly told him I was fine. He finished by giving me a long-winded speech about how useful it would be to have him live with me. I literally had to push him out of the door and tell him I'd rather be eaten alive by piranhas than ever live with him again, as he is a nightmare. As it stands, it's been about 9 months since then. He's now mooching off his friend and still telling anyone who will listen how he turned me down when I asked him to live with me. My mom is honestly getting a bit of a laugh out of it since my brother has been changing the story so much over all this time. I haven't seen him since I made him leave, and honestly, I'm good with that. If your brother or sister asked if they could live with you, would you let them? And why or why not? Please let us know.
I'd never let my sister Sharon live with me. She thinks the world revolves around her.
Asked me to quit on the spot? Okay, I'll take you up on that. This happened 20 years ago, after I had just turned 18 and during my first real job as a cook in a franchise that has a very creepy clown as the mascot. After working there for 6 months, I decided that I preferred to work as a bartender, so it was known that I was looking to find some job in a bar. This is a bit relevant with what happened. So I was supposed to clock out at 4 p.m. As soon as my shift ended, I punched my card. Yes, we used to punch cards back then, and I was on my way to change clothes so I could leave. As I was leaving the kitchen, a big group of customers, like 10 or 12, walk into the store. So one of the managers demanded I stay to help. No, she did not ask me if I can help. She demanded that I help, even though I had already clocked out. Being 18 and nice, I agreed to stay and help. Around 20 minutes later, and I was still in the kitchen with several orders still to do. So I was really complaining to the second manager, who's also working the kitchen at the time, that I really needed to go. For some reason, the other manager, the one that demanded that I stay to help, overheard my complaints and starts yelling at me that I'm useless and that I should be grateful that I have a job and that I shouldn't say these things as she knows I'm searching for another job and she could fire me on the spot. Mind you, she was not working the kitchen, she just entered the kitchen to grab some stuff. So I told her that I had already finished my shift and I was not getting paid for the extra time I was there and that I was already late for the plans I had. So she yelled to me, "If you want to leave now, you might as well quit." Cue malicious compliance. I followed her instruction to the letter. I told her, "Yes, I want to leave now, so I quit." I took off my shirt and pants as they were company issued and went to pick up my stuff wearing only my drawers. Even after picking up my clothes, I didn't bother to get dressed, just walked out of the front door like that. My shoes were also mine, so I was not barefoot. I walked to my car where I put on the rest of my clothes. This happened in full view of the customers as the kitchen is in direct view from the whole store. She was dumbfounded, and some customers even clapped and cheered because they had heard how nasty she was being to me. Later I found out that she was reprimanded by the owner, probably because everything that happened in view of customers, and I even got a small bonus on my last paycheck. Within the next couple of weeks, I found a bartending job that I kept for a few years, so in the end, everything was for the best. Edit because people are asking. I'm not from the USA. In my country, you can legally walk in a bar at the age of 18. Edit 2. Because I see a lot of people hang up on the people cheered part, when I left, the customers that were there told me that I did the right thing and clapped. I didn't say that I got a standing ovation, and I never said everyone. I just said some people. In my country, people cheer and clap for all sorts of stupid things. Glasses fall down and break, people cheer. People get in a fight, people cheer. It's more common than you'd think. But even if you do not believe me, that's okay. I just wish that I was able to entertain you. Edit 3. Because people keep asking, I'm from Greece. Although from my understanding, the same thing, cheering for things that break, is happening all around the world. I saw many people mentioning the UK and Australia. Am I the jerk for filing charges against my roommate and suing her for my hospital bill? This happened several years ago. I was a 20-year-old female and in college. I was living with my two best friends. One of them was moving out so that she could move in with her boyfriend. I placed an ad looking for another roommate. That's how I met Erin. Before she moved in, she informed me that she was vegetarian, but she wouldn't have a problem if other roommates weren't. She moved into our apartment a month later. The next day after she moved in, she cooked breakfast for us. I was surprised. We didn't ask her to, and by her own words, she wanted to do something nice. She had made pancakes, bacon strips, and hash browns. I am deathly allergic to a few things, so I immediately asked her what was in the food, but I didn't mention my allergies. Huge mistake. She listed the ingredients, and I didn't find anything I was allergic to. Edit. She told me it was regular bacon, not that it was fake bacon or that it had soy. I started eating, and everything tastes a little off. I tried the bacon, and there's definitely something wrong with it. At this point, she does a ta-da and smugly told us, I bet it tastes exactly like meat. I'm freaking out now. I told her I am severely allergic to soy and asked her whether there was any soy. Now she's apologizing and said she didn't know and that she's sorry she lied and blah blah. I'm experiencing anaphylactic shock, throat closing up, dizzy, the works. My best friend freaks out and calls an ambulance. I had to stay in the hospital for 2 days. With the US healthcare, the ambulance, plus my hospital stay, it racked up a lot of money. Money that I did not have. In the meantime, I also filed a complaint with the police. Food tampering is a felony. I had a lucky break. My best friend had filmed the breakfast to post it on Instagram, and she got the whole thing on video. In the end, Erin had to plead guilty to some law degree of felony. She didn't get any jail time, but got community service. Once she was found guilty, I sued her for the hospital fees. I won that one too. I did all of the legal things under the advice of my uncle's friend who is a lawyer. He said something about how it would be easy to sue if she had a guilty charge. I also did not have any contact with Erin during any of this under the advice of my lawyer. Erin's scholarship was canceled and she had to drop out. She also went into debt paying medical fees. I saw her on Facebook a few days ago, and she's still down on her luck. I guess a felony charge makes it very hard, no matter how small the charge was. I know she's the jerk for lying about food. I want to know whether I'm the jerk for everything I did after. Because bottom line is, I basically messed up her whole life because she put the wrong ingredients in the breakfast that she made only to do something nice. Edit. You guys are complaining like as if I wrote the law on tampering food, or like I was the one who decided what charges to file, or as if I was the judge or jury that gave the verdict. This is a snore fest. Throwing the account away. You guys can keep whining all you want, but that doesn't change the verdict. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or is Aaron? Please let us know.
That's why I don't do anything nice for anyone. I just don't want it to backfire on me.
No, I'm not working overtime since I already told you my last day was today. It was 1994, and I was just laid off from my last job as the general laborer at a machine shop. Was seriously pounding the pavement when my middle brother calls me up and tells me about a job in a local machine shop. I've done a bit of machining while in the last shop, but nothing where I would be actually doing setups and measurements, etc. I was really just the help, but what the heck, nothing to lose. Owner basically hires me on the spot at about $2 more than minimum wage at the time. For me, I was just glad to have a job, so I was doing fairly well, considering I was only out of work for basically 3 weeks. Over the next 4 years I worked there, but was really mistreated by my boss. If you messed up, even in the most minor way, he would scream at you for a solid 10 minutes. If he and his wife had an argument, he would take it out on the few employees he had by screaming at whoever was in his sight that day. Finally, it's the end of 1998, and my brother and I are out looking for new jobs while still working at the shop. My brother happens to find a job and announces that he's giving his 2 weeks notice. For the boss, this was very sudden, and he did not understand, but when my brother tells him that he's leaving for more money and benefits, he actually coughed and said, "What? I pay every one of you what you're worth." So we're all clear, our current rate was $8 an hour, which literally meant that my best raise each year was 35 cents. At this point, he really tried to figure out what the other employer was offering my brother, but I was not about to tell him, and neither were the other 2 employees at this point. We were all tired of his crap. 2 weeks goes by, and my brother is finally gone, and now it really hits the fan. Now he has to get on the machines and do work he hasn't needed to do in years. He couldn't ask anyone else, and no one had answered his ads for a machinist working for the meager amount he was offering. At this point, I was working a complete center of CNC machines, which included multi-axis mills and multi-axis lathe for a large group of select parts. I could do a complete teardown and reset all of the setups on the machines, write all of the code for programming the machines, G&M code for those of you who know what I'm talking about, and also make just about any part you can dream of on the main Has mill. About 6 weeks goes by, and another employee quits for other reasons, but really is just more of the way he treats us. He goes on a tirade for about a week, and it's at that point I know I need to step things up. Christmas is on Friday, and it's the Monday before, and he comes into my shop center and hands me an envelope. I ask what's up, and he just says it's your Christmas bonus. I couldn't believe it. Been there almost 4 years, and this had never happened before. After taxes, it was nearly 2 weeks' pay, so I was elated. Time to do Christmas shopping for the parents. Later that night, I sat down and realized it was really a bribe to hold me there as long as he could so he could hold me there. Fast forward to right after New Year's, and I get a call from who would become my next employer. We talked back and forth for about 2 weeks, and then I waited. 3rd week into January, and it's Tuesday morning, and just like clockwork, he's riled up about something insignificant, but decides to take it out on me. After he's done his tirade, he stomps off, and I head to the back of the shop to make a phone call. Speak to the employer, and the shop foreman tells me I'm hired and asks when I can start. I say that I would like to offer my 2 weeks, and he says absolutely. See you in 2 weeks from the Monday coming up. I hang up the phone and walk up front and wait till he turns around, and I simply say, "You have my 2 weeks," and then turn around and walk out of his office. About a minute later, I see him stomping off to his house. Shop was in a very large garage on his property. Lunch came and went, and still no boss until around 2 p.m., and suddenly he shows up and starts saying that I'm very ungrateful, not just for him teaching me everything that he knows, but also for giving me a bonus that I didn't deserve. At this point, we had been on overtime since earlier last spring, but he didn't want to pay anyone what they requested, so he was forced to have us all work overtime for almost the full year so far. With my brother gone, it made things even more crazy, but it was expected. On to his tantrum. I listened to his idiotic ramblings and finally just said, "I'm done." His final retort was that he never should have hired me in the first place. At that point, the only way I can describe it was the break of a pencil in my head. That sudden crackle, then clear break of the wood that is crisp and thorough. I simply coughed to shut him up and said with the same clear tone that I had heard in my head, "Today is my last day. No need to extend this 2 weeks." He simply said fine and stomped off. This is actually where I thought I was feeling the best I had felt in a long time. I was wrong. 2 hours later, I was finishing up packing away all my tools, and I had finally shut down my machines for the last time, and he walked back into the shop. He was livid. "What the heck are you doing? You still have work to do before you leave today." My response was, "I'm not working additional overtime since I already told you it was my last day." With that, I picked up my last set of tool cases and left the shop, never to look back again. Hope you enjoyed my experiences, and sorry for the long-winded malicious compliance. For those who want to know, the employer I moved to paid me 3 times my old rate, and yes, they gave really good Christmas bonuses every year. Am I the jerk for giving my mom a fake number when she asked for my job's contact info? I'll give some backstory first. I'm female, 18, and my mother, who's 50, is extremely clingy. I have no idea why, but she's always done this. I've always been the most independent out of all of my siblings, and therefore she's always trying to be in my business. I understand that she's my mother, and I love that she cares about me, but there are times when I must draw the line. At my last job, she would demand I text her whenever I get to work and whenever I leave, which was extremely doable. However, sometimes I'd arrive a bit later than I wanted and would have to immediately begin to work. I wouldn't be able to text her, and she would flip out every time, calling my phone 20 to 30 times and calling my siblings and father asking where I was. She began to call my work phone, which was extremely embarrassing for me because sometimes my boss would answer. Once when I was driving to work, my phone wasn't plugged into my Bluetooth, and so I couldn't text or answer calls. She then called my boss's personal phone number, which I still have no clue how she got, and asked him about me. I was furious and told her if she had just been patient for 5 minutes, I would have answered, and she didn't get it. I'm always a perfect child and do everything she says / never get into any trouble, so I don't know what the obsession is about. The worst thing she did was call my boss's personal phone during everything going on and tell him I couldn't come in because it was dangerous. I had to find out about this by getting my weekly schedule and thinking I was fired because I had no shifts. I had to learn from my boss, who was super nice about it, why I was off the schedule because my mom hadn't told me. It was the most embarrassing moment I've ever felt, and she didn't understand why I was upset with her about it. For my new job, I've tried to set boundaries. I've told her my job has our emergency contact and that I would text her when I arrive and left. She asked for my boss's name and the store address, which is fine, and then asked for his personal. I gave her a fake number. I told my sister about this, and she told me I was being petty and wrong, but I don't think she understands what it's like to have none of your privacy respected. My mother even begged that she drive me to work on my first day while she waited in the car as if I'm a kid. Her behavior is making me hate being around her as well as refrain from telling her anything about my personal life. So, am I the jerk for giving my mom a fake number so she doesn't embarrass me at work? Well, what do you think? Is OP a jerk for giving her mom a fake number or not? Please let us know. Man tells me our store hours. So, retail store setting, shortened due to what's going on, and that day a lack of staff caused us to close pretty early, about 3 or 4 hours. I, the manager at the time, had to stay behind and process online orders leaving our store. I turned off all of the lights, yanked the metal doors closed, and proceeded with closing paperwork / deposits as I will not be selling anything for the rest of the day. All fine and good until about an hour after, when I'm in the stockroom grabbing items for this pesky order. I emerge from the back to find a man in my store browsing, knowing he has pulled open our closed gates and the sign apologizing for the inconvenience. Me: "Hello, sir. I'm very sorry, but we're closed." Man:
No, you close at 7.
He continues on his shopping adventure. Me, trying to be as polite as possible: "Unfortunately, not today. We had to close at 3 today due to a lack of staff. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Man:
No, you close at 7. I'll continue shopping. Thank you, I don't need help.
Me: "Sir, again, we're closed. We have a sign up saying we're closed, and mall admin also knows we're closed early. If you don't leave, I will have to call security." This man gives me the dumbest look, literally drops the items he was looking at, shakes his head, and starts towards the door. Man:
You really should have a sign up saying you're closed.
As he opens the metal gates again and leaves, I stood there, so astounded. I turned the lights, music, and outside store sign all off. The gates were closed, and this man just wanders in. Just why? Entitled Karen tries to claim my phone as her own. So I was sitting at KFC playing on my phone when innocent kid saw and asked what game I was playing. "Hey mister, what game is that?" Me. "Oh, this? It's called Jetpack Joyride. You basically have to try to go the furthest without touching lasers or zappers." "Oh, cool." And proceeds to go back to his mom. Mind you, I'm sitting at my table waiting for my food to be called. Entitled Karen. "Excuse me, can my son play on your phone? You see, I don't have that game installed and can't find it." Apparently, she doesn't know what Google Play Store is. Me. "Sorry, ma'am, but I can't, as I just recently got this phone and don't want anything bad happening to it. But the app is on the Play Store if you want to download it." Karen. "I have no data on my phone." She said this with a slight smirk. "And my son really wants to play it." Me. "Look, I would if I could, but I also need my phone as I'm waiting on a very important phone call, which should be happening any time now." This was a lie. I just wanted her to go away and leave me alone. Karen. "Obviously you're not, as I can clearly see you are playing a game." Me. "Yeah, I'm playing a game to pass the time. Doesn't stop me from answering calls." She huffed and stormed off. I heard my order being called and decided to go collect it from the counter. Me being me, I decided to leave my phone on the table, and boy, shouldn't have done that. When I got back, it was gone, and I immediately looked at Entitled Karen's table, and my phone was in her hand as she was giving it to her kid. I go to her table. Me. "Excuse me, what the heck do you think you're doing taking my phone?" "I told you my son wanted to play your game, and what my kid wants, my kid gets." Me. "You have till the count of 3 to hand it back before I get the police involved." Innocent kid goes to give me the phone back when Entitled Karen takes it out of his hand. "I told you my son wanted to play on your game." I start to count with my hand out. Karen calls for someone over. Employee. "What seems to be the problem, ma'am?" "This guy is trying to steal my phone." Employee looks at me. "Is this true, sir?" Me. "If it was true, do you think I would still be standing here?" The truth is that this lady took my phone off my table when I went to grab my order and will not give it back. "You liar." Me. "You see this watch?" I point to my watch. It's a smart watch, and the beauty of this thing is it has a Find My Phone feature, which when pressed will make my phone make an audible noise. Karen starts to lose her color a little bit and thinks I'm bluffing. Me to Entitled Mom. "Shall I show you?" Karen. "I just realized I'm late for an appointment." "No, you sit right there." I tap my watch a few times, and to her amazement, my phone actually went off in her hand. Sorry, that's my notification sound." She stuttered here. I proceeded to press my watch again, to which the phone went off again. Employee to Karen. "Ma'am, I suggest you give this guy his phone back." Everyone is staring at this point, with my anxiety skyrocketing. I hate being the center of attention. Karen. "He must have hacked my phone with his watch." I managed to snatch the phone back and looked at employee. "Here's how I can prove this is my phone. There are 3 ways of unlocking it: facial recognition, biometrics, fingerprint, and the good old password." I unlocked all 3 times, and to add salt to injury, I proceeded to show my ID to employee, saying, "Keep a note of this," and proceeded to check my gallery whilst she was looking at my ID. Me. I always keep a picture of my ID on my phone just in case it gets stolen and I have no chance of getting it back. I wipe it clean. Employee checks the picture. Employee. "Want me to call security?" Me. "Yes, please." I get my phone back and allowed the kid to play a game or two whilst his mom was ranting and raving about how they should believe her, and I was allowed to steal her phone. Turns out, from what the kid was telling me, this isn't the first time this has happened. My meal was refunded and basically on the house because of all the trouble. How I love Karens. "No, I can't leave the gas station I'm working at during the middle of my shift to order McDonald's for you." This was quite a while ago, over a year at least. I don't remember exactly how long, but I still think about it from time to time, wondering what planet this lady must have come from to think a request such as hers was even remotely reasonable. I work at a gas station in a small town. Although the town is very small, a major highway cuts through it, and the gas station where I work is often fairly busy. We're actually busy enough to justify having 2 workers, but the owners disagree and figure the gas station itself is small enough that 1 worker should be able to handle things fine on their own. Yes, I have some stories that prove the owners have clearly never had to work under the conditions they expect us to, but those are for another day. My point is that the cashier on duty for that shift is the only person working there at that time, unless they're training someone, and trainees are given exactly 2 days of training before getting thrown in the deep end because, God forbid, the owners have to pay 2 people to work at the same time. Never mind it gets busy enough to have lines snake around the whole building quite often. I should also mention our number is similar to a few other places, including some that are actually in the next town over. So when we answer the phone, we answer with, "Hello, you've reached name of town, name of gas station." The idea being, upon hearing this, any misdials will realize immediately they have the wrong number and prevent conversations like the following. Obviously, it didn't work in this case. It's a typical day at work, and I had just finished helping a customer. It was a rare, blissfully slow day, so far. So there was only one other customer in the store at the time who was busy browsing the drink section we had when the store phone rang. Normally, our policy is customers in store get priority over phone calls, but as the only customer in the store wasn't actually ready to check out yet, I went ahead and answered it. This is the conversation that ensued. Me: "Hello, you've reached our gas station. How may I help you?" Karen:
Yeah, I want to call ahead my order so you'll have it ready when I get there. I want a McDouble and a large fry with
Me cuts the lady off. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but this is the gas station, not McDonald's."
This isn't McDonald's?
"No, ma'am, it's the gas station." Karen:
Are you sure?
Me glances at the gas pumps outside, thinking, "What the heck?" "Yes, ma'am, I'm sure."
Well, I called because I want my order ready when I get there.
Me: Well, then you'll need to call McDonald's." Karen:
Can't you just run over there and hand your phone to them? Or just order for me and I can talk you through it?
At this point, I should mention the store phone is obviously a landline phone. I mean, yeah, it's cordless, but it has a limited range on how far you can take it from the base before it stops working. So not only is this request ridiculous, but it's also literally impossible. Me: "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't do that." Karen:
What do you mean you can't do that? Why not? This is terrible customer service.
Unintelligible yelling and ranting. So yeah, she literally started yelling at me because of her mistake and the fact she was apparently too lazy, entitled, to hang up and dial the correct number, instead expecting me to leave my actual job in the middle of my shift, leaving the store unsupervised to help her pre-order her McDonald's so she wouldn't have to wait. Who, from her attitude with me, I can only guess she would have immediately complained that it was cold. By now, the in-store customer is ready at the counter, and as the person on the phone is actually not even wanting us, it was time to cut this off, and while admittedly probably wasn't the right way to handle things, I needed her off the phone so I could help my actual customer. I completely dropped my polite retail persona and decided to be absolutely blunt. "Look, lady, I cannot leave my workplace while I'm working. I have my own customers to help. The phone we're speaking on is a landline, as are most businesses' phones, and even if I wanted to help you, it doesn't have the range to go that far. As for customer service, you are not my customer. You are McDonald's customer, and it's actually not my job to help you order your McDonald's. Have a great day." The last part said in an overly sweet, sarcastic tone that I generally reserve for Karens. I hung up without even giving her a chance to respond, then helped my actual customer. She never called back, and I never got in any trouble. So she either didn't complain or complained to the wrong place. And I honestly have no idea if she ever did get her McDonald's. Imagine your mother-in-law sells your rare video game collection to buy a poodle. That's exactly what happens in our next story. It just popped up on your screen. Give it a tap, come have a listen. You won't believe what happens next.